Oh wait, just once, Luke?
Just I'm this feels like a one-time kind of thing. It's just one of those days.
Okay, no worries. So
I was coming back from Long Beach, like I
yeah,
was saying,
yeah.
and suddenly like a cop car's got his lights on behind me. I move out of the way, and he zooms past me, zooms past all these other cars, and then he does that zigzaggedy thing across the entire freeway. And all the traffic stops, and then like we see like 4 or 5 other police cars zoom up on the like on the sides, and there was a homeless encampment right off of the 710 freeway. And I saw officers hopping over the thing, the concrete slab, I guess, that stops cars from careening out of control on the freeway. And like one of them had a shotgun, was holding his shotgun. Ooh. And I was like, whoa, all right. And so sat there, and then my air conditioning conked out on me.
Oh no, today's a hot day here in LA.
Hot day here in California.
Yeah, it's hot.
So I just sat there listening to NPR with the radio down, letting Eric know I'm going to be late. I might be late because of unforeseen circumstances.
Wow. And did you see them arrest this
Yeah, I saw them arrest like a homeless guy.
Ouch.
Yeah. I saw like a guy, with hands behind his back.
Oh.
Being, led off.
Did you hear him? Was he saying something like, "And I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you, damn kids"?
I wish I did. It was a little...
He's going to the Hall of COVID right now.
Oh, I know.
Oh,
it's like,
my God.
Yep. He's going to the jail system filled with COVID.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, is it? I haven't heard anything about...
I think the Terminal Island, there's like some kind of a prison there or something at Terminal Island, which is like San Pedro-ish. Mm-hmm. I heard that one's super infested. Like I heard on the radio. Yeah. Like that one's bad.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I'm sort of fascinated by all this right now because there's a strange kind of and we had this conversation before about culture and regionalism in the United States and how it used to be wasn't quite as homogenized as it is now. Mm-hmm. But I think there is still some kind of regionalism that's taking into effect and allowing for certain stories to go out there that might not necessarily be true because some regions do not have the density of a Los Angeles or New York.
Or New York Chicago. Is way more than LA, I think.
So what happens is you have people saying things like, "Oh no, it's safe to go outside. We want to just open up the country." And I'm like, well, okay, I get that. I get if you're in North Dakota and there's just less people there.
Yeah, your neighbor is like way over there, right?
Yeah, and then that's fine. I get that. But right now in New York, we can't do that. We just can't do that. Just not.
I don't think we should be doing that here either in LA, but.
Oh, I agree.
Because even Orange County is it's still dense there in my opinion, and
like I don't mind Orange County burning.
Oh, okay.
But then what is Seattle and San Francisco like? Those places,
San Francisco. I think. Wait, is it
pretty jammed? Aren't they?
Is
there a lot of people?
Yeah, and didn't they extend it? Was it in Washington or something? Oregon was it? They extended it to June 1st at least, the stay-at-home thing. So they extended it longer.
Because any major city with a large population it's problematic as far as this thing is concerned.
I think so.
Any kind of city that has any international traffic.
Yeah, or public transport, exactly. International traffic for sure.
San Francisco, they use mass transit over there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like whenever I go to San Francisco or to New York, the general density kind of reminds me of each other. Like if you go into like any of the boroughs in the city in New York City versus San Francisco, it's like homes are like against each other. There isn't a gap between them. So
Yep.
it's dense out there. Did you see the article that our friend of the show Gerald Quo posted about the
did not.
two strains of this coronavirus?
I
Eric,
am
did you see
aware
it?
of that because one of my friends is an infectious disease expert.
Mm.
Oh,
here
yeah,
in New
wow.
York. And she was telling me, she was telling me this a month ago, that she believes that this is a mutated strain that's hitting New York right now because it wasn't like this, before.
Right. It's
So
a
even
much
yeah.
it's a much more virulent. Well, not virulent. It's much more contagious.
Much
Yeah.
more.
Wait, you're talking about Gerald from Salk Institute?
Yeah.
Oh, Gerald Powell, PAO.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was like, this is a toy guy like from
No,
Singapore?
No. From
Is it Jeffrey?
From our good buddy Gerald, who was on the
Gotcha.
show,
Yeah.
former guest of the show.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet, but yeah, he'll be talking to us maybe this weekend if we can get our stuff together. He wants to get back on.
Oh, I love that. I'd love to get an update.
Yeah.
But basically, there's all this like anti-Chinese sentiment across the United States because of the coronavirus, but the current strain that is basically consumed approximately 75% of the infections here in the United States come from the European mutation. So
I could tell by the accent,
it's those dirty whites.
And I'm just like, oh wait. I'm like, wait, I know. That's not a Chinese accent. I can tell.
You give it a smell and you smell that musky BO and you're just like, that's white people.
No.
Right
It's pretty terrible that those people that in charge were really pretty much guessing. They didn't know. They like to make it sound like they know what's going on, but they didn't know about any of this. Not until shit hit the fan in Italy, then suddenly they were like, wait a minute, this is not good. And it was too late. It was already too late at that point. You had a window, to slow this down, and that window required tests, and they for whatever reason they didn't produce enough tests.
It required science and belief in science.
Yep.
Well, I mean, that's all those protesters in Michigan, that if they were going to protest anything, that's what they should be protesting, is that they don't have tests. Because if you had more tests, right, then theoretically you'd have a much better handle on the calculations of who has been infected, who is infected currently, and who isn't infected, and then you have a better idea of who or how to isolate or quarantine. Because right now, the way it is, you just don't know. You don't know. Anybody can have it. I mean, we had a meeting with the faculty at school, and they were saying they wanted to install some kind of device that can measure people's temperature, as if that was going to be an indicator of sorts. But we know that, and this is from just the news that's come to us, that you don't even have to show symptoms. You can have it. So it doesn't matter. I don't think the temperature is going to be the thing. I think
that doesn't mean shit. Yeah.
Yeah. We need the tests more than anything else. We need the test. We should be testing millions of people every day in every state.
Yep. Yeah.
Not just
Agreed.
The number that the our fearless leader has said.
That person.
Yeah. It's unfortunate.
Say, Travis, where are you? Explain, because you're in this rad-looking studio, and some people aren't going to know. They hear your accent. They know you're not from China. They know you're not the Wuhan doctor that created this thing.
Well, okay. I was born in Queens, so that's the accent that you're hearing. I live in upstate New York. I moved out of Queens a long time ago. I've been here for 22 years, and oddly enough, there are still people that think I live in Los Angeles, because for a while I seem to be out there all the time. And people, I used to fly out there every other month, for like a minute, right? Luke, you'd see me all the time for no reason. It's like, there he is again.
Yep. It's like, he's just here for his buddy's show.
Well, you gotta support people.
Sure.
So I'm about 120 miles north of Manhattan. So I would like to think I'm pretty safe, but it is up here, but not as not as far north as I am. It goes about as far as the train stations. So there are still people that live up here that commute to Manhattan, and I think that's where they got it from.
Wow, like 2 hours?
On the train,
Yeah, more, right?
It's one of those trains that doesn't have as many stops, so it's pretty direct. So you could be in Manhattan in 90 minutes on that train.
Wow. And you're in a place that has a cool name. Redbeard. Redbeard?
Red Hook.
Red Hook. Red Hook.
Yeah.
Redbeard. I thought it was some kind of a pirate thing. That's what I keep thinking.
Well, it's named after, actually, oddly enough, they say, I hear that the town is named after the flowers that grow here.
Oh, okay.
This was a Dutch town, and Red Hook, so red flower,
right?
Red Hook, right?
Yeah, I looked it up. Of course, there's like 1,000 people who live there.
Yeah, it's small. This is a very small town, man. Yeah. A lot of people, they got used to me. For a little while, I was like the only Chinese guy in this whole town. So it was like you recognize, like, hey, it's that guy again. It's like Luke living in Fresno.
Kind of, yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, there's not too many of us. But since it is a college town, so now there's a lot more.
Oh, it is.
There's a lot more Asian folks here now because Bard College is up here.
Oh, okay.
I know if you watched the Sopranos, they mention it on there because I think one of the kids wanted to go to Bard College or something.
Wait, is it just called Bard?
Bard, yeah.
Oh, it's weird. When I was in high school, I was going to move to New York was the idea, and I was going to go to college, and Bard was one of the schools I was looking at.
Oh, no kidding.
For absolutely no reason. I was just looking at schools, and Bard was one of them. Yeah.
It's a pretty good school, nice campus. Depends on what you want to study here. I know. I think Jan Corey's kid went to Bard College.
Oh, really?
One of her kids. She had mentioned that to me.
Oh.
Right on. And you teach at a school, right, Travis? You're teaching at
the School of Visual Arts, and that's in Manhattan. So on 23rd Street between 2nd and 3rd. And
so you're commuting back and forth all the time?
Not right now. Now it's online, but I would drive in and I would teach the whole day, and then at the end of the day, I would drive back.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long commute. That's a 4-hour round trip, right?
It's like driving from Sherman Oaks to Riverside.
No.
It's like at 3 in the afternoon on a Friday. That's what it's like.
Oh wow.
How's that for you?
Yeah, that's awful.
That's about 2 hours easily.
It's about 2 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my description. And we know that Riverside is not that far, but it's just the congestion.
It's pretty far. It sounds far anyway. I know where it is.
It's a lot
far.
Closer to me, but it's still an hour or something away.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Myself and I live east downtown Los Angeles, so
it's so funny. I talk to people in LA, and I for comparisons, I use like these different locations, and they know right away when I say, oh yeah, it's like driving on the 101 heading toward, like they know. Like, okay,
that's horrible.
They always ask me, and I go, well.
So what are you teaching at a SVA?
I teach two classes that take up the whole day. One of them is a drawing class, and the other class is called the pictorial assignment illustration class, where they have to tell they have to illustrate a story based on a theme, and the theme is given out during the summer, right before the semester begins. And like this year, the theme was man-made monster, and they were given a list of literature and films and operas to choose from, and plays, and from those books and plays and operas, they pick one of the stories on the list, and they have to illustrate it. And they have to do 12 to 20 illustrations for the whole year. And
you came up with this prompt?
Oh no, the head of the department did.
Oh, okay.
So this year was Man-Made Monster, and there were some pretty good ones. There was Pinocchio was one of the ones in the list, because obviously, I guess he's kind of like a monster.
He is a monster.
And then
he lies a lot. He lies a hell of a lot.
There's
right?
Frankenstein, obviously, right? Frankenstein.
Misunderstood, but okay.
There's the Golem. I don't know if you know the Golem of Prague.
I know what it is, but
so that's pretty good Island of Dr. Moreau, you know. So some pretty good stories. The kids did a really good job. I was sort of surprised at some of them and sort of disappointed with others, but it was okay.
Do you think as a I guess the younger generation that you're teaching, have they read enough and have they saw the movies that you think that they should have seen by now just without this prompt? Or do you think this prompt is actually forcing them to like go, holy shit, I don't know anything?
Well, the idea behind the assignment was to give the kids some culture, so they would have to read these things, you know, because I mean, I don't know how old you are, but
50.
Oh, you're my age. So when you
Oh.
were in school, you probably read.
Don't.
Yeah, you probably read. You know, did you read Robert Louis Stevenson books when you were in school?
I read some.
Like Treasure Island or
Sure.
Kidnapped
Yep.
or stuff
Yeah.
like that. You know, so
Treasure Island.
the kids today they don't read stuff like that.
That's what I'm saying. I was wondering what you
No.
felt about
So
that.
this
If they
gives
were
them, this forces them, and some of the things are long and they're hard to read. You know, even for any age. You know, like last year, Moby Dick was one of them, and that's a tough read, man. That's a
Sure.
very long. You know, you remember from school, Luke. I mean, Moby Dick, really? Melville? Oh my God, that stuff is like, that's crazy. That book is probably longer than Charles Dickens' books.
Actually, I don't think I had to read Moby Dick, fortunately.
Oh,
and
I did,
I
but
have not read Moby Dick yet, to be honest.
But it's one of those. It's one of those books that you read it, and it's like, you know, it means a lot more than what you think it might mean if you're just reading it as it's on a surface, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But man, I always wonder, like, if this new generation of kids, especially ones that are doing illustration and art, if they're read at all, or are they looking at Reddit is their source of culture now? You know what I mean?
Well, that's a tough gig. Gig. I think film is easier for them. It's easier for them to watch a movie. Now, whether or not they digest it in the same way, where they interpret the movie the same way that the instructors interpret the movie, that's something else, because there's so much, you know, our eyes are different when we're older than when we're younger. Our life experience, you know, it's sort of like okay, it's like when you're a little kid and you're watching a Warner Brothers cartoon, right? And there's a bunch of jokes that Bugs Bunny says that are
racist.
These are World War II jokes, right? And you're like 6 years old, you have no idea what the hell he's talking about.
Yep.
Who's this Kilroy that was here? What is he talking about, right? You know, but as you get older, you go, oh yeah, okay, now I know what he means by that, you know. Or okay, there was a Warner Brothers cartoon I was just watching where there were these two cats trying to catch a bird, but the cats were drawn to look like and sound like Abbott and Costello, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there they are trying to get this bird, and Bud Abbott's cat is yelling at the Lou Costello cat, the shorter, fatter one, you know, hey, give me the bird, because he caught it. And then the Lou Costello guy says, you know, I'd flip you the bird, but because of the Hayes Act. And I was like, I didn't get that joke when I was a kid, but now I get it, because there was this thing called the Hayes Act in the 1930s that was like code for film, so that you couldn't have foul language, nudity, excessive violence, that sort of thing. Because in the silent era, they were still doing all this crazy stuff. Right. But then when the Hayes Act came into play, they no longer did that. So that's why it was like the language thing. So he's like, I'd flip you the bird. And I was like, I get it. But as a little kid, I didn't know what flipping somebody the bird meant. I didn't know what that meant. And I was like, you're like, what does that mean?
Well, experience is always, you know, and age and experience always dictates how your perception of everything, right? I think my understanding, like you were saying, like with the watching older cartoons, when you're young and uninformed, you're basically kind of just watching it for the hits and the trips. But as you get older and you have a much wider view of what the world is and all the different things that have happened across time, it informs what is going on in the cartoon, which is the reason why like cartoons, at least back then, you know, had much more, I don't know, I assume more, even deeper things kind of buried underneath the surface of it that kind of informed that were essentially created for people of that time who were going through those things.
Oh, definitely. Hey, when you were a little kid, did you ever watch Giant Robot?
Right? Yes.
So I put it on for the kid. It's on. They're on. It's on Amazon now. It's on.
Oh, it
Prime.
is. Okay.
And
Is it called Johnny Sacco and his flying robot? You
No,
mean that?
It's just called Giant Robot.
So it's the Japanese version. It's
And
episodic.
No, did I just call it Giant Robot? No, I'm sorry. It's I meant Gigantor. It's Gigantor.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah.
So I went. I tripped myself up. The Giant Robot thing. That's actually what I remember of it was lots of live action thing, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, so
Yes.
this was a black and white cartoon.
Sure.
And my daughter was like, "What is that?"
It's
So I
very
was like,
cool.
I was like, "Let me put it on for you." So I put it on, and she's like, "Oh my God, look at the expressions!" Because there's characters on the show that are doing these crazy things with their bodies, and I never noticed that when I was a kid because you're just watching the show, you know.
Mhm.
But one of the characters is planning a trip for the boy, and that we have to go do this thing or whatever because there's some shipments are getting destroyed or whatever, and he jumps up in the air and does a split, and his hands are all over the place. And I guess you have to see it. It's the first episode of Gigantor.
You could demonstrate it. You're halfway there, man. You're halfway there.
Well, what blew my mind was that it was in black and white because I had a black and white set back then, so I couldn't tell the difference, right?
Right.
And I was marveling at the design. It's so different the way that stuff looks than even something like Speed Racer, which was after that. You know,
Yeah.
Sure.
just the design. You know, that it's kind of cool. There was another one. Is it Simba? No, that's not it.
Yep.
You're talking Kimba, right?
Kimba, yeah.
Kimba,
Kimba.
the
That was
white
the other one
lion,
that was on
jungle
Prime.
Taite, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So fascinated by these things. If you get a chance, go to Amazon and check it out.
Well, they
That's some
say
classics.
that the entire plot of Lion King, the Disney version, was stolen from Kimba, the white
Oh,
lion.
it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was controversial at the time when that
Oh.
came out. I remember it was very controversial, and of course the people, was it at Disney, were just saying no, absolutely not.
Yeah,
I think
they were saying it's wholly original.
they denied ever hearing about Kimba, is what originally some of the
How could you
animators said.
deny
I think.
that something like that exists if you're of
I think
age
they-
that you would have seen it?
I think they denied ever seeing it. They denied hearing of it, and which is untrue. But that's what I remember. It came out in media. I'm not sure if that was also hyped up and probably wrong, but yeah, I've heard of that. And I was like, that's impossible. How can they not have heard of Kimba? But
Right.
You know,
Disney.
yeah.
Like, they like have their fingers in so many different pies all across the globe. How could you
yeah,
Yeah.
not have heard of that?
Yeah.
It's such a Kimba was such a hugely iconic, story in Japan. It was
Uh-huh.
one of the big animes, I think, especially from that era, from what I
Yeah.
understand.
sure. There's comics, and it's the logo of the Cebu Lions baseball team is
That's
Kimba's
right.
head.
That's
So I mean,
right.
or there's a
Yeah,
logo,
yeah.
but there's a cartoon logo version. There's one logo that looks like that's not it, and then they have a cartoon version that is also their logo, and
So
that is
are
that
you
is Kimba.
are you a baseball
Yeah.
fan?
I like baseball. I mean, I will admit I like all sports, but I act like I don't like any sport. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Like
I love
if I'm among people who say they don't like sports, I'm like, yeah, fuck that shit. But if I'm among people who like sports, I know I can hold my own. I know it.
Well, I really love baseball. That's one of my
That's
favorite
cool.
things. And I
love
I
baseball.
even follow the Japanese baseball teams.
Wow.
Oh.
And my old employer, he used to go to Japan all the time. He would bring back these baseball caps for us, which was kind of
Wow.
cool.
So Japanese baseball caps, at least a long time ago, were really strange. Like they weren't nothing like a new era American baseball hat.
no.
Did you notice
although-
that? They were soft
they
and
were-
weird.
Yeah, they were really weird. But the one I have now is Yomiuri Giants.
Yeah.
So, and from a distance,
Yeah.
it looks like a New York Mets hat.
Is it the colors of Mets though? Isn't it kind of orange and black?
It is orange and black. So I
Because
wore that
Mets
to
have been-
Fenway Park, and people kind of looked at me weird.
Ah,
It's like, well, it's not a Yankee hat, but what is that? And then, and those of the crowd that were learned, they knew right away what it was. And
Yeah.
that was kind of cool.
so wait, how many baseball games do you actually go to? And you're a Yankees fan, I guess? Or
I am a Yankees fan, but I do when I get a chance, I do like to go to different. Luckily with my profession, I have shows in other states.
oh,
so
you're
I
that
get
much
to-
of
So I get to go to Seattle, and I'll go to Safeco Field. I'll see a Seattle Mariners game.
Wow.
I've seen a Padres game in San Diego. I've been to San Francisco. Yeah. So I get to go. I get to go to the different games.
Do you ever go to baseball games, Luke?
I have not.
Wow.
I grew up in Fresno, so
They have minor league.
it means that like I just didn't grow up with any. I grew up in a city that didn't have any major teams, so I never felt any kind of kinship or whatever to like a local team, which I kind of feel is
how far is Fresno from Oakland?
3.5 hours.
Wow, 3.5 hours. Wow.
And it's also 3.5 to LA, right? It's about the same distance to Los
3.5
Angeles.
to LA.
That's right in the middle. Oh, that's too bad.
Then I went to then right after Fresno, I moved to San Luis Obispo, which is also 3.5 hours and 3.5 hours.
Wow.
So
part of it isn't really even, I mean, if you're not a hardcore baseball fan, going to a game though is just still really nice, especially if it's like an evening or nighttime game. I really enjoy that. And it's more social. So if you go with somebody, it's not like you're glued to it. You can still talk and hang out, and it's sort of like this chill experience. Whereas if you're going to like a basketball game, you're sort of fixated. You should be more fixated, but baseball's like lounging out. I mean, you can hang out, talk, draw, do whatever you want. If you're not the hardcore fan that needs to watch every moment of every pitch.
Oh, I am not.
It's a really relaxing,
nice game.
It's a relaxing, nice time. You'd probably enjoy it just to be there. The atmosphere is amazing.
Next time I'm in LA and it's baseball season, we have to go to the.
That's what I'm saying. I was just going to get to that. Is like we should just all go. We should all go.
That's the one I haven't gone to, and I've been to LA the most.
Oh, you might get beat up there though. That's the thing. Dodger Stadium parking lots are notorious for people getting their ass kicked.
Oh, jeez.
People are getting like concussions and knocked out, and all this stuff happens. So
I just won't wear a Giants hat.
That's all. Yeah, just don't wear any. Just wear an LA hat. You can handle it. Yeah, there's a lot of like hardcore fans that are angry. Anyway.
Wow. Well, it's hot over there, and it makes people angry.
Oh yeah. No, there's people who get knocked out and beat up and concussions and death. Even it's happened. So
it's worse than those Hornets that are over in Seattle now, right?
Murder Hornets.
Murder Hornets. What's that? What? Murder Hornets.
That's what they're called, right?
Seattle.
Yeah.
That's where they're at. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You'd think they'd be like closer toward, California.
Like a hotter zone or something, right?
Right.
Well, they gotta get there first, right? They gotta fly down.
They're big. They're like this.
They're really big. You can't miss them. 2 inches long.
Yep. That's a lot of hornet.
So wait, you don't have a hornet as a pet, right?
What?
You have like insects and reptiles and stuff.
I do not have any hornets as pets.
Travis Louie has pets.
Yellow jackets, and I hate them, and they hate me.
So wait, talk about your pets. That's something that like I don't know if a lot of people. Like, Luke obviously didn't know.
I didn't know. Yeah.
Travis hasn't. I don't know if do we talk about that? Is that okay?
It's fine.
Yeah. No, his pet thing is amazing. That's a show of its own.
Yeah, I have frogs. Different kinds of frogs. I have a lizard, and I have 4 different kinds of tarantulas, and fish. Yeah, I have all kinds of pets in this house, man.
Yeah, you have other insects though, don't you? Or is it just tarantulas?
Praying mantises.
There you go. Yeah, I remember there's something else.
And you keep them as pets, or do you, like the insects? Do you keep them as pets, or
are they pets? They don't just like run around my house because that would be insane. It's like look out. Yeah.
How long
they're in a tank. I'm sorry?
How long do praying mantises live for?
Only a year.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So it's very sad. At the end, it's very sad. I watched the entire life cycle of the. And
you'll bring it insects to consume.
Yeah, it eats flies.
Right.
So that's not so bad. These are the little ones. These aren't the big praying mantises that you get. Because they have, where you guys live, they have these big green ones that you see.
Yeah.
As those I've seen when I was out in California, I was like, wow, you got them big over here.
Yeah.
In California.
Yeah. I've seen huge ones in California.
And they fly. They're like 6 inches long, and they fly, and all kinds of crazy stuff. They release them in the fields to kill all the insects that eat the plants. right? So that's why they would get egg sacs and just let them grow and just release them into a farm, and it would just take care of business.
Yeah, growing up in Fresno, I would run into huge ones and
all
over the place. So
well, Fresno, what's the crop that is growing over there in Fresno?
Raisins used to be pretty popular, from what I remember.
Raisins,
dates, raisins,
figs,
peaches.
Because I know Salinas is like the lettuce capital of California.
Is it?
Salinas?
Wow.
Yeah.
Gilroy's the garlic.
Yeah, Gilroy's garlic.
Yeah.
Salinas. There used to be this wood cutout of a farmer. He's taking a knee onto the soil, and he's holding it looks like a split head of cabbage.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he's holding it near his crotch. And so whenever we would drive to the Bay Area and we'd pass that guy, we would inevitably have to make a comment about our balls or something like that. Oh, my balls.
So do your pets kind of somehow inform your drawings? Kind of is that kind of an inspiration to some of the things you draw?
I got them.
There's a lot of that.
I got them to do that actually originally. I got the pets because I like the textures of the praying mantis, and I like the armor that it has. This one, because the one I have is it looks like camouflage. It looks like sticks and leaves, right? So
yeah,
it's kind of cool.
That's right. That one's an odd. I mean, from what I've seen here, I saw that and I was like, well, I didn't even know what that was. So it's a praying mantis, but it looks like leaves.
Like a bad guy in a movie.
Yeah, it's like disguise. It's like it's a really wild looking bug. Look, that does not look. I've never seen anything like it, and I was tripping out on it, thinking, what is that? But yeah, very cool.
Cool.
So you got that just for drawing, and then they end up being
originally,
your pets.
But then we really like them. So when we went back to the Reptile Expo, we bought other ones.
Reptile Expo? What?
Yeah, we have Reptile Expos here twice a year actually in Westchester. So that's where my wife got the dart frogs, those blue dart frogs. They're little. They're only about 1.5 inches long. And they're this beautiful blue color, and they're frogs, and it's really kind of cool. Yeah. So not so bad.
Another thing I was kind of curious about was a lot of your characters. I guess they're retro. They're dressed up in what is it? Is it Victorian?
Yes.
That kind of like that era, like turn of the century era. I can tell, right? It's pocket
Victorian
watches and mustaches and top hats. But what made you go to that time period and enjoy that time period?
Well, my work is a sort of a veiled commentary on the immigrant experience, and I specifically picked 19th century photographs because around that time, that was when my grandmother's grandfather came here. Somebody had told him that there was a mountain of gold in Northern California. So him and his friends got on a ship and came to California. And that's the start of my family coming over here.
Wow.
That would have been the 1850s, I guess, right? The 1850s?
Gold Rush era?
And a lot of those guys ended up working on a railroad, actually. That's what ended up happening. It was a bad scene. They didn't know what they were getting themselves into.
No, I don't think so.
Right.
But it was tough because they weren't allowed to. At first, they weren't allowed to bring their wives over here because of the Chinese Exclusion Act.
Yep. Don't want breeding. No.
So for a while, if you went to Chinatown in that era, in San Francisco or even in Los Angeles, you would see mostly dudes, right? There were some ladies, but mostly dudes, and there was a reason for that because they didn't want more of them coming here, right? Well, you know all this. I mean, that's the history, right?
Yep. Do you hear that clicking?
Yeah,
what is that?
I hear it.
Oh, okay.
Is that on my end or your end?
I don't know.
I wonder if that's my fish tank with the pump. The pump is pumping water into the.
Could be.
Either that or I'm about to go off. Somebody crossed the wire. And just, someone diffuse me.
That's interesting. I had no idea that's what it came from. I just thought maybe you had an interest in that period, but the fact that it's about immigrants is crazy.
Well, and that's
why
wild. But to make it more universal, I I didn't paint, people. I painted, these mythological and fantastical beings. So they're still the other, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm
That
saying.
comes
It
to
kind
me.
of it makes more sense.
But they're not, I think to make it more universal, I didn't just like pick on, here's some Irish guys, here's some German guys, here's some Italian guys, here's some Chinese guys. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make it so this could be anybody. This
Yep.
could be anybody's immigrant experience.
Yeah,
Whether you
but
come
basically,
here because
it's
of a potato famine, or
yeah.
because there's civil unrest in whatever country you live in, or whatever reason you come here, right? So that's
Wow,
that's why I do it that way, you know.
that's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, and that's what my work essentially is about. That experience.
But then they're still dressed up in. I guess the idea is that sort of like portrait attire, correct?
Yeah,
Like,
it's portrait attire because
so regardless, because I don't think a Chinese dude coming here was gonna wear that kind of outfit until they got a photo taken or
Well,
a
that's just
portrait
it.
drawn.
It was cheaper to have a photograph taken back then than it was to hire somebody to paint you, right? So photography made that cheaper to get a portrait done. The other thing was, of course, a lot of those guys had wardrobes that they would dress the people in,
Yeah,
because suits and dresses were really hard to come by. Everything was handmade back then. They couldn't like walk into a Macy's, you know what I mean, and just like buy like a suit. That's not how it was, right? So everything was hand tailored. So very often I collect these photographs. I have thousands and thousands of 19th
Wow.
century photographs in my collection.
Whoa.
And after a while, you notice, hey, isn't that the same suit that other guy was wearing? And you go, wait a minute. So it's like a wardrobe thing.
Wow.
Oh.
So not only are you getting this cool portrait done, but you get a costume to put on to do it.
So have you been to France by any chance?
I have been.
So have you gone to that in Paris? They have a flea market area.
Yes.
So when I went to that, I tripped out because if I go to a flea market here, I'll find old photographs. That flea market, it was all portrait paintings everywhere of family portraits. And I'm thinking, oh, this is older than photography, perhaps. And their societies Paris is a lot older than Los Angeles. So I find old photos here, but I don't find portrait paintings of families and portraits of people. Whereas there, it was everywhere. I was too much. I was like, dude, there's another portrait, and it was everywhere, like vintage portraits.
Well, it's funny.
Like painted,
I think another thing about that is that in France you had more painters. There weren't as many trained painters over here. I mean, people would leave the U.S. to go over to France to learn how to paint, right? Especially in the 1860s, 1870s, they go to the Academy Julian or something, or one of those French academies to learn how to paint. That was like that was the high end of learning how to do art. There was no art school in New York. Pratt Institute didn't even open up yet. It was new.
Wow.
All that stuff was brand new. So and it didn't have anybody that could teach over there yet to teach people. So you're gonna have to go to France. Even some of the early illustrators that you're probably familiar with, some of them went to Europe to learn how to do their art.
Wow.
A guy like the J.C. Leyendecker and his brother Frank, right? They both went to the Academy Julian, and that's oddly enough that's the place that Bouguereau had taught. He had taught there. I don't know if they ever had Bouguereau as a teacher, because that he died in 1905, so maybe not. But his other guys were there that they learned from, and that's why they learned all this great painting and drawing ability.
I'm going to be embarrassed to say I don't know who these people are.
I'm sorry.
I figure Luke would know everybody.
I know.
Okay.
I
I heard of the name of that, but the other guy you mentioned, Bouguereau or something.
Bouguereau.
Never
One
heard.
of his
Yeah.
paintings is
I don't know
in
who
the
that is.
Forest Lawn Cemetery in Los Angeles.
Wow.
There's a museum there, and every time
Oh, really?
the museum the painting is called The Song of the Angels, and I go there all the time when I'm in LA to take a look, just to because it's very hard to come across a Bouguereau painting. There aren't too many of them that are as accessible, because they're mostly in private collections. I mean, the Metropolitan Museum of Art had, I think the last time I was there, they had 3 of them, but mostly it's he showed up at a really weird time. He's a great painter, but it's unfortunate that he showed up at a time where his kind of painting was just about to go out of fashion. And that, and that's the thing about art, right? Art is it's cyclical, and it's driven by the zeitgeist. So what might be popular, now might not be 20 years from now. We don't know what's going to be popular 20 years from now, right? So you can have somebody that's really, really, really famous, and then all of a sudden they're not, just like that, in just a span of time. I think of Eddie Cantor. Do you know who Eddie Cantor is? You ever hear of him?
Mm-mm.
Eddie
No.
Cantor was a very, very popular American performer. And if you see the HBO series Boardwalk Empire,
Oh, I did watch that.
there's a character there named Izzy, and he's Steve Buscemi's friend that is in theater, and he's a performer, and that is supposed to be Eddie Cantor. Now, Eddie Cantor at one time was so popular that he even had a float in the Macy's Day Parade, the Thanksgiving Day Parade at Macy's. It's like a gigantic Eddie Cantor going down the street.
Wow.
But now you ask the average person, they have no idea who the hell this guy even is.
Yep.
Or
Guilty.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
And just like that, just like you ask the average 14-year-old, who's Sean Cassidy, right?
Oh.
Right.
But in 1976, everyone, you're a little girl, or in the United States, you might know who that is.
Oh, you had a poster on your wall. Like,
Yeah, you might.
That was one of the most popular posters. Might have been Sean Cassidy. For a boy, it was Farrah Fawcett, right?
Yeah, right. Because
people don't know who Farrah Fawcett is.
Times happen, change, and things that were in fashion, or that's an art is like that, right? Hopefully, our art lasts longer than that, but we don't know. We don't know.
That's the thing. Like if you look at, if you look at acting or media stuff, like even the movies, because it is rooted in its foundation is technologically is tech based, right? Especially movies.
Yeah.
And these things evolve and these things change, and the way, like, you watch a movie from the 1970s versus a movie that that was just 45 50 years ago, it is such a different experience than a movie that was created now. It's almost hard to watch because the editing is so much slower. The grain of the film is so much harder to look at if you're not
acting
used to
styles too, like the acting style.
Right.
It's like you're watching theater turned into celluloid, and then there's like a the trend of kind of like, what is it? Some movies are they're back to being comedic, but for a second it was realism, right? Everything had to be as real as can be.
Right.
Even superhero movies had to be real. Now it's like superhero movies have become real, but also jokey, right? They kind of went to comedy a little bit, like Thor. It's like a comedy.
Right.
But before it'd be like, oh, I'm gonna make a guy that looks muscular, and his hair is gonna be kind of long, but he's gonna be a superhero, but incidentally a superhero. He's gonna have this hammer, but it's not gonna be that hammer. It's gonna be a realistic looking hammer, right? Like they're, you know what I'm saying? Like 10 years ago, they were trying to make superheroes into regular people, but a little bit special.
To make it something that people of that era could be able to take seriously.
And now it's gone overboard. It's like superhero times 1 million, right?
Well, I mean,
so it's weird.
It's funny because you think about. As you say, Luke, technology that allows for certain things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then other things get kind of lost, like how you tell a story, how something moves. I mean, it's amazing how much money you'll throw at a movie now, right? Hollywood production values are really high.
It's
right?
crazy.
That's a lot of money, and yet you go overseas and they'll make movies over there, and they just don't cost as much to make.
Well, you brought up something interesting, and that was the portrait painters, right? Like a lot of them got replaced by photographers. So it's this. That's
technology.
Yeah, there's the technology.
There's
it democratized it to a certain degree.
It made it so that you didn't have to be a wealthy person to get a portrait, right?
But you want to look like one though, because you wear that suit.
And you didn't have to spend, I don't know how many years you would have to spend learning to use this medium. Obviously, back in the turn of the 20th century, the technology for taking photos was a lot more complicated than it is now. But it's changed. I started going to school. I studied graphic design, and I studied during that transition from people cutting Rubylith to people using Adobe software and Quark Express and Illustrator and stuff like that to
And freehand.
and
The
freehand.
great
So
program. The great
you
program.
remember
Freehand.
you remember using a stat camera? You remember using
I
press
do.
type? You
I
remember
did.
all those things?
do.
I had to take classes of with that. I never I took like 1 or 2 classes in this.
I had one in high school. I had a graphic design class in high school, and it was all stat camera and yeah.
So you did paste up and mechanicals, which used to be the
Yeah.
job you would get when you graduate right away. Like your first job before doing anything else was maybe you get a job at a company, doing paste steps and mechanicals, working for like the Yellow Pages or something. That's originally that's what people did when they graduated. They didn't right away go into making book covers or anything.
Of course.
You still weren't good enough yet, so you had to spend a couple of years. I mean, there always were a couple of kids that were really talented that even while they were at school, they were kind of working. Dorian Vallejo, that's he's a friend of mine. While he was still in school, he was actually getting work. He was already doing book covers already while he was in school.
Wow.
Which is kind of amazing.
Yeah, but the technology is constantly changing and raising and lowering bars all over the place. However, there's something about painting and looking at original illustrations and this and that I'm kind of shocked that despite the thousands of years that this medium has existed, it still is celebrated. Maybe not as much as it was like in the 1700s, 1600s, and maybe even 1800s, but it is still a medium. People would rather, majority of the time, own an original painting rather than a giclée print, which is a fancy way of saying digital print.
Yes,
don't you think?
Yes, it is. I think art is still it's still linked to the past. That's part of the conversation of art. It's always informed by the past, right? So fortunately, it is this link to antiquity that holds that in place, right? I mean, the history of American illustration is maybe it's only 150 years old at this point, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not, it hasn't been around that long, whereas painting has been around much longer, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, there's different schools of painting, which are like we say before about regionalism, right? So the Italians painted a certain way, the French painted a certain way, right? Mm-hmm. The Spanish, there's always that thing, right? That essence, that texture, that character, that's connected to a location, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
New York and Los Angeles are worlds apart.
Are they worlds apart now? They weren't. They were
ideologically,
but now things have changed. I find when I go to Los Angeles, and it's very funny. I go there, and there are so many New Yorkers living in Los Angeles. It cracks me up. I'll go someplace, and I'll hear the accent. I'll go, wait a minute, you're not from here. You're from back east. Well, you sound like that, And I'm not just talking like Martin Scorsese, but I mean like just anybody that a lot of people in Hollywood. I had a meeting at Sony, and the guy I was talking to, he had a New Jersey accent. I couldn't believe it. I was like, well, that's so crazy. And and he, because he's from the East Coast.
Sure. Well, I'm talking about like art, aesthetics, artistic aesthetics. Like I always kind of feel like Los Angeles has a much more illustration kind of appreciated like aesthetic, and meanwhile New York definitely has that like, oh, the Chelsea like
oh no.
Well, I think art. If you want to talk about like the quote unquote higher art world, there is that sort of bent nose kind of like look at things, but I think it's changing because the people that put that together are all dying off.
Yep.
Oh, I was going to say
So-
New York has a longer history, perhaps, in galleries and
but
whatnot,
they've always been fighting. I mean,
Yeah.
there was years ago, I would say in the 1930s, they tried to make a distinction between illustrators and fine art painters, and I think that's a load of nonsense. I think that we're all connected by our method of communication, right, which is visual,
Yes.
and it's whether or not you want to complicate that with abstract thought, or with some kind of aesthetic that requires paragraphs of explanation or whatever. You still have to make something, right? I mean, that's still, if you're making visual art, you still have to make something. It doesn't matter. I mean, although there was that lady who sat in the chair and people stared at her, but I mean, that's that's still an idea, right? So you have to, I don't know.
That's like, that wouldn't something like that like fall more into the realm of performance art anyways? Like,
but that's the thing, right? We didn't have performance art like that until after the Armory show, right? So until modern art showed up, what we call modern art, right? So we didn't have anything like that before. It really was just painting and sculpture, and then of course film came along, which to me, I always say this and people get upset. I still think that the great art form of the 20th century is still film. It's not painting or sculpture, it's film. That's the thing that's reached the most people, is film.
I agree. I agree. Well, I got into an argument with oh my god, I'm blanking out his name. Matthew Bone, Matt Bone. He does like,
I know Matthew Bone.
Yeah,
sure.
And that is this argument of who was the more influential 20th century artist, Picasso or Disney. My argument was Disney. I think Disney.
I think it's Louis B. Mayer. I don't think it's Disney. I think it's Louis B. Mayer over at MGM. I think he has more influence.
It's always the third one, just so you know.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, Disney. That's cool and all, but
it's always keep in mind, like, in life, it's always the third one.
You look at what the obviously, like, Disney now has become this monolith that is kind of taking over the world, but like from humble beginnings of like the pre-Mickey stuff to Steamboat Willie to Fantasia to whatever, like that work.
But when did they start making live action films, Disney? In the 40s or the 50s?
I think in the 40s.
I was trying to remember what they did a bunch of movies. They even did a Treasure Island. Isn't there a Treasure Island Disney movie, live action?
Didn't it come out around the time of the Swiss Family Robinson kind of?
Swiss Family Robinson. There you go. I remember that. Sure. Yeah, but there was a bunch of live action movies that didn't do particularly well.
Mm-hmm.
I think the animation films are doing better.
Yes.
Excuse me. At the box office.
Yes. Right.
That's what they were more known for the longest time.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. They also owned Viacom, didn't they?
I'm sorry?
Didn't Disney own Viacom?
Did they own it now? I know they didn't own it before.
I thought that I know they owned like a huge
studio. They own a lot of shit, man.
Yeah, like under different names. So
they definitely own a lot of stuff.
Does Disney own ESPN or something?
Yes,
they do.
Right?
Yeah, they do own.
Yeah,
ESPN.
I think so. That's what I'm saying. It's major.
Yeah.
So that reminded me because and this is completely a tangent, but we had that band Jawbreaker, the drummer. His name's Adam. It's a punk rock band, and we had him. He was doing a talk, and it came up. It was the third thing example. Someone jokingly asked him, "Who's Rolling Stones or the Beatles?" And then he looked at everybody and goes, "You're all wrong. It's the third. It's the Who." And and everyone started laughing. Just one of those things, man. It's always he said always pick the third. So that's what Travis
I
just
would
did.
have to agree with him on that because without Who, you basically don't have punk rock pretty much. They were the punk band I mean, they
don't
weren't
know.
punk, but that was.
I don't know. I always thought that was profound
They were
because
like
I never.
bad guys, you know. As much as the Stones were the bad guys and the Beatles were the good guys in the '60s, I guess, right? Then you had a lot of other bands, right? You had like the Kinks were around, you know.
Yeah. I just thought it was a very profound, funny thing, and I love saying it now. I'm like, oh, you choose two things. I'm like, no, pick the third one. Never pick one of the two.
Louie B. Mayer because MGM is this gigantic studio.
Sure.
And there were other studios. There were, Warner Brothers was around at that point. So was Fox, but it's those MGM movies, that vault, all those things there. They made some pretty amazing movies. And it was all contract back then, right? Everybody was under a studio contract. I mean, you could loan an actor out to another studio, but you'd have to do something for that.
Right.
Is that all like? Is that like Buster Keaton?
Yeah, like Buster Keaton. Like if you're Warner Brothers and you want to make a Robin Hood movie or something, and Jimmy Cagney decides he doesn't want to do it, right? Then you got to get somebody else, that kind of thing. It's funny because as soon as the contract system broke down, then it got really interesting in Hollywood, right? I mean, then it was right around toward the end of the '60s, going to the '70s, and then movies just changed, right?
Right.
Really changed. And before, when you said, when Eric was saying about realism, everything was trying to be more naturalistic. The acting was more naturalistic. It wasn't so stagey like it was in the 40s. Because
there was
like that.
there was an NPR whole story about when that changed, and they said it was Marlon Brando. It was the reason.
Yeah,
and
method
everyone
actor, right? And
but people who are influenced by him, then the next generation after him they all tried to become more real, and then it just kept evolving from there. But
that was also I believe rooted in a technological thing too, because like if you look at like all the early 20th century film stuff, like everyone talked kind of crazy, and the reason why
that's amazing.
Sound was new,
right? It's because the microphones weren't sensitive enough to pick up the subtler inflections, and so they spoke in an exaggerated voices.
They were still doing the stage thing, just like Eric was saying. They were still these were all stage actors.
It's all influenced by stage.
So all the motions were really big. Yep. The big gestures. So that somebody in like the 20th row can see what the hell's going on. They still acted like that. Very exaggerated.
Right. From the way people moved to the way people spoke so it was clear on a mic when you heard it on your radio.
How do you do it, Luke? Wait, give me an example. Give me another example.
I am not.
You are so good. You're so good.
It's a very like wavy kind of way of speaking. And
it's more like, hey, you see, it's over there. And it's like, who says that?
Yeah,
like
nobody says that. I don't think people even spoke that way at that time, but they
just for theater
that way because that's like how you when you're speaking into a tin can, that's how it works. And I think the technology had finally come to a point where it was more natural, you could speak more naturally and it would still come out very clearly. And
I think they were already doing that in Europe, right? So at that time, Fritz Lang was still he was making movies in Europe, and he made a movie called M with Peter Lorre, where he played a child killer, right? Mm-hmm. And the acting in that is actually pretty naturalistic, and that was before a lot of things over here. But the whole movie's in German, you know what I mean? So it's not.
So we might not know either, right? Yeah. Maybe they're in German. They're like, we don't.
It didn't seem particularly exaggerated. It seemed very naturalistic, Or if you watch, there's little pieces of it. I mean, it wasn't all so exaggerated. There were some films that it's just they were ahead of their time.
Yeah.
If you watch, it's an Errol Flynn movie actually. It's called The Prince and the Pauper. He's in it, and it's kind of weird. It's not really. It's somewhere in the middle. It's not quite that kind of stagey. Like the first, you're talking about the 1930s, the first sound.
40s, 40s, 50s even.
40s movies, it depends on the studio and what was going on. Like the low budget movies, the dialogue was better.
But even like, look at John Wayne. I mean, that guy never changed, and he was. I don't know. Like nobody talked like that either.
Well, that's again, that's I've no.
Right? John Wayne. Nobody
I never really
did that.
cared for John Wayne.
Me neither. He didn't like anybody. He didn't like us.
You should check out a movie called Nightmare Alley with Tyrone Power. That's a good one. That's in the 40s, and it's just a very clever movie. Some great writing in it. The writers are really good. A lot of those scripts are great. Sunset Boulevard is great. If you get a chance, that's a good one. I'm very fond of those noir pictures from the 40s into the 50s. And it also sort of influenced my earlier work. Before I did the paintings I'm doing now, I was trying to do a bunch of paintings of chickens as gangsters for like a minute. That's what I was doing, and then I couldn't sell any of those things. I thought it was hilarious, but I just had to do it. But you know how it is, Luke. You adjust to the market if you have to.
Mm-hmm.
We got. I think you and I, we came in at a good time.
Oh, absolutely.
In LA. I was talking to Chet Zar about this. We were talking about Cannibal Flower and Think Space and LC and Andrew Hosner and how they would have these parties and people would bring the work and hang it up, and then the next day they if it didn't sell, they'd take it home. And Chet Zar said he sold his first painting at a Cannibal Flower show. That's what he told me.
I sold my first painting at a Cannibal Flower show.
But there's still connection there. Like whenever you see LC, there's a smile, and it's friendly.
Yes.
I wasn't quite there yet. I showed up when it was Think Space, when it was actually Think Space.
Yeah.
And I was showing with in LA I was showing with Gary Pressman over at the Copernacan Gallery. That's where I was.
And the first time I ever saw your work, Travis, was at a La Luz de Jesus kitchen sink show, I think.
Funny story about that. So one day somebody is watching one of those home improvement shows on one of the I guess back then it was called the Learning Channel, or was it Discovery Channel? Which one had it was HGTV, Home Garden TV.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where look at our house kind of shows where where the camera is following around a couple who just bought a home and they were furnishing it, and the camera pans over to a room and there's my painting hanging on the wall. But my painting hadn't been sold, so somebody at La Luz stole it, and it ended up on that show.
Whoa.
So there I am. I'm calling up Billy and telling him what happened, and he's like, "What?" So Billy Shire pays me for the painting because he's a class act, He goes, "Well, I'll just have to look into it because apparently there, maybe he had somebody there that was stealing stuff, or whatever. Not his fault. You can't control. This always happens, right? This kind of stuff. I'm sure, over at your store, you've probably in the past have had somebody maybe come in and shoplift, over your space, Eric. That happens. So,
and I got my shit back.
You got it back?
I put it on social media. Yeah, that person crawled back.
How cool is that?
Yeah. Anyway, but go on. Your story's better. Mine was sad.
So So I mean, I think that's right. And then after that, I ended up at Copro after that for whatever.
Did you get the art back?
I got the money. So
but did they get the art?
I don't know if they got the art back.
The art got stolen, probably. So it's
Annie was there at the time. Do you remember Annie?
Yep.
Yeah, she was working with Billy. The other person that he had worked with she had left already. What was her name? The other person that ran things.
Kennedy. Matt Kennedy.
No, Matt Kennedy came later. He's after that. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. Point is, Annie was there, and I'm sure she probably got him back because she's like a shark. That one, I'm sure she figured something out. Just like, look at you son of a bitch.
Right.
There was probably some guy hanging by his heels somewhere.
Oh,
where's the painting? You know.
Suge Knight. Suge Knight Vanilla Ice. The saga.
Yeah, right next to Vanilla Ice, hanging off the.
Yeah.
You know the.
Two legs. Yeah.
You know.
And now you're showing that with Mary.
I'm at Mary Karnowski's place. That would be KP Projects.
Yep.
It's located on La Brea, not too far from Pink's.
No, it's actually a lot. It used to be back in the day. It was pretty close to Pink's, and now it's like literally like across the street from Pink's.
What?
No, it's further up,
Really?
isn't it?
Is it further up now?
It's like half a block away from Pink's now.
Really?
Yeah, they
Well,
moved.
you know where Aaron Brothers used to be on the corner. You know, when you go to the corner and then Pink's is across the street. Aaron
Right.
Brothers.
Yeah,
Right.
not
How
there.
far from there is it?
It is across Melrose down the road, and
Oh,
the next block. It's on that block.
because I haven't had a show there at the new space yet.
Yeah.
And my next show is in November.
Oh, great! Hopefully, all of this will have blown over, and
I'm hoping it blows over and I can get on a plane and it isn't weird and I don't show up and somebody sticks a thermometer up my ass at the LAX. I don't want that to happen, you know.
you can only be so lucky.
Cough, you son of a bitch! Cough! Oh no, not again.
They're gonna, and then you're gonna be like, that doesn't feel like a thermometer.
Oh my god!
And the guy's gonna be like, it's not a thermometer. Oh well.
Nice.
Just relax.
Yeah. It's not a thermometer. Sorry.
Think of England. What? Think of England? What are you talking about? Do it now, I said. Oh my god. But you know, we hope it all works out. I mean, I don't know. I mean, she's still having shows there. Even right now, like Lola's show is up right now.
Yeah,
Wow.
open like right in the middle of all of this. Do you know how that went? I know you're good friends with Lola.
They sold some stuff, so people are still buying art.
Oh, that's great.
So that's a big plus. I didn't know how it was going to go, and now I guess opening up now in May, it's going to be Jenny Bird, Alcantara. She has a from Riverside, California, as a matter of fact. She has a show opening up this month at Mary's. So,
Wow.
So that's you know, people. Well, I'm just like plugging the gallery. Isn't that funny? It's not even my show. It's someone else's show. Here I am plugging the show. I should plug your show, Luke, whenever that is, the next one. When is the next one, Luke?
Well, I literally just got a call, and they are like one of their two artists have bailed out at the end of at the end of May. So I'm doing like 4 like paintings for something that's on the 30th at Corey Halford. But my next show is going to be in March of next year. I was supposed to do a show in Manila like in June.
Yeah, but that's you know, that's a hell of a thing.
That's not.
That's if you could be able to get a visa or whatever and fly over there, and that seems like a lot, man.
No, it's I've been out there before, and I had a fantastic time out there. And I was looking forward to doing the show, but the coronavirus kind of fucked everything up. So
that ruined a lot of plans. I mean, I was.
To say the least.
I was looking forward to taking my daughter to a show, and that's probably canceled now.
No, which show?
Her favorite band is when she was in school was My Chemical Romance, and they were doing a new tour just this year, and I had finagled some great seats at the Barclay Center in New York, and in Brooklyn, and it was going to be really cool, and there was a possibility that maybe she might get to maybe even meet Gerard Way or something, or I had finagled something, but now obviously that's not going to happen. So
wait, how old's your daughter?
She's 20.
Oh wow, she's an adult.
In
my mind I was thinking of a 12-year-old or something, but I'm like, can My Chemical Romance? She's got to be older. Okay, that makes sense.
Luke met my daughter once.
Did I?
A long time ago. Yeah, when I flew out to LA not this last time, but the time before that.
Okay.
I ran into you, and I ran into Stephen Daly.
Oh, cool.
Oh wow.
So you got to, I think you met her for like a second.
Right.
And
that might have been
time.
I think that might, because the last time you came into town was when you had the
show at the old KP project space, right? And I met up with you at Lola's place, and we all
Yeah.
went to the show. So I'm trying to remember the time.
And then was that the same trip where you stopped? You stopped in. You were at Giant Robot. You came into the gallery, right?
I walked into Giant Robot and I was
Yeah.
like,
Is that the
"Hey."
same last trip? Was that the last trip? Or the last?
No, I came
Was
one
that
more
it?
time after that.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Yeah. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to Eric Nakamura's space, and
I was honored.
even though it's the night of my show, I'm still gonna go there anyway.
I was honored.
And
Yeah.
I showed up and I ran into James Jean. He was
Yeah.
there.
Oh, he's
And,
a close neighbor. So yeah.
So I was like, cool. What do you know? There he is.
Yeah.
You know? And what's funny, I don't know if I for a while I used to just run into him for no reason. I would just run into him.
Mm.
You know, the last time I'd run into him before that, I was walking in New York, and I ran into him and David Cho. Just, you know, and it was like, hey guys, hey, and and then before that it was in Miami. It was just random. I think
Wow.
he was at the time he was sharing a space with David Cho. They were using the same studio
In downtown LA. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a few years ago.
Yeah, maybe time flies. Maybe 5, 4.
Yeah, and
Something like that,
I
5?
for whatever reason they were both in
Yeah.
New York, and I don't know whose show that was for or what was going on, but there they were, and that
Nice.
was kind of cool. So it's kind of funny. You just run into people. We're a very, very small community, and we all kind of know each other, which is kind of nice. You know,
Yeah.
I'm hoping I run into Thomas Hahn next time I'm out there.
He should be ready to come on out soon. Well, I think by the time all this is done, he'll be ready to come out. I've been in touch with him. He's been
good.
Doing good. He's doing
That's
good.
good.
So he'll be stoked to hear that. That he's still on your mind.
Yeah, he's still on my mind. Esau Andrews is still on my mind. I still run into him when I come out there. I think he's sharing a studio space in downtown LA with Dan Quintana.
And, yes.
With
Miso.
Miso?
Maybe.
Liz McGrath.
Oh, they're all there.
Oh.
Yeah, they're all in that studio space.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
Miso, Dan Katana. I didn't know Esau was there, and Liz.
Yeah, Esau was there very quietly. I last time I was out there, it was for that was my show, but then also that weekend it was a memorial for Greg, and that was over in where do they have that? It was at a college. Did you were there, weren't you, at the memorial?
No,
Greg Escalante.
I didn't make it to Escalante's memorial.
I forgot where that was. It was at a college,
It was
wasn't
at a
it?
college, yeah.
Orange County, and
Yeah, correct. It was at a college in Orange County too. At that, I believe.
I just was bad at waking up at the time.
Everybody was there. Greg Simpkins was there, and Coop. I don't know if you know Coop.
Yeah.
And, Keith Wiesner. The whole gang. And then who else was there? Lori Lipton. You know Lori Lipton, the giant graphite drawings.
Sure.
Yeah.
She's a customer at the. She's been coming for years to Giant Robot, like just very incognito, like just a person. And I didn't even know who she was the whole time until like, I don't know, not too long ago, where I was like, I finally figured out who that was.
Yeah.
She's pretty great.
Like
very cool.
Woman is Lori Lipton, creator of insane graphite art.
I know.
Big graphite art.
Big
drawings, man.
And really amazing too. Like and kind of unassuming, like oh yeah, she does it, And it just seems like just the scale of it seems so amazing. How do you even get going on that? But
she
can do it.
I think she has a great amount of tenacity.
Yeah, need it.
And she also has a really strong integrity about her work. So she just holds on and digs in and just, does the stuff, and to her it's bliss. I mean, she loves it. She loves what she's doing, and that's a wonderful thing to hear, because you always hear about that sort of bizarre fantasy idea of an artist being this tortured person, and maybe in the past, who knows, but right now this person that she is really happy with what she's doing, and I think that's wonderful. I like to hear that. You know, I never want to hear that somebody is like, I'm this close to the rope, Jimmy. You know, you don't want to hear that. You want to know that that things are going well, you know? Right? That's the thing.
I don't even know anybody like that. I mean, like, does that like that 1960s romanticized notion of the tortured artist, or that, you know, that post World War II?
Well, okay, right around the time the economy took a big shit in 2008, 2009.
Yep.
I was hearing a lot of that. You know, there were a lot of people that were really upset because paintings weren't selling. You know, in New York anyway, not so much in LA, but definitely in New York, it was like a problem.
Right.
And people were upset. You know, it was like, what do we do now? You know, they were like, there was a moment and they were almost there, and then all of a sudden it was like somebody just pulled the rug out from underneath them, and then no sales. And how do you live without sales? And
right.
You know,
well, but that is a self-destructive attitude or thing fueled by an economic situation that was unpredictable. But does the, like, you know, the one thing I don't see a lot of, like, I remember back when I was strung out and a complete mess, like, I think I was the only one that was that strung out walking around in art shows around Los Angeles, at least.
But you were still beautiful, man. I met you, and I met you just before all that.
Right.
And I was like, this guy is so cool. I was so happy. I met you over at Gallery 1988, and I was so pleased to meet you because I'd been following your work for a few years at that point, and I was just so pleased I was like, this is the guy. This is the clever guy. This is the person. And I remember Molly Crabapple was telling me, she's like, man, you gotta look at this guy's stuff. This guy's got a great sense of humor and a wonderful way of looking at things. You know, she was right. You know, there's just you have a great way of communicating, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, and we need more of that. We need people that are can communicate what, you know, an idea.
That's part of art, right? Art and graphics and
well, I mean,
like
it's supposed to be, but I find that one of my problems with a lot of art that's in I guess in the modern art world is that it's just so mired in this duel of ideas instead of communicating.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like you have people that are talking with language that doesn't connect to the common man at all. And you have to, you know, it's like, I don't want to have a PhD in psychology to understand what you're painting. I think that's ridiculous. I should be able to look at your work and get something out of it, you know? And it's not like I'm not educated and I didn't go to college and and I don't know anything about philosophy. I do. So if I have to work hard to understand something, that's not, what is that? And it's not being lazy. I just think impact is important.
But don't you feel that, like, if I have to sit back and read your dissertation about this piece, which isn't really part of the piece,
it's not. That's the other thing. There's a disconnect there.
Doesn't that piece on its already automatically fail?
Well, that's it. They don't want it.
It's to a certain degree, right?
It's not that it fails, but it's just that's the language that's used. That's just the way art is, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you like it. Some people love it. Some people genuinely find that exciting. They like this thing that is so different from the way art used to be, right? Because they're in love with this idea of the new. But I'm an aesthetics guy, you know. I like to be able to look at something and be able to get something that you know. And again, not that I'm a simpleton, but I prefer something where it communicates to me a lot quicker.
Sure.
You know, because I mean, honestly, life is short, man, and I don't have time to sit there and, you know, read your as you say, your dissertation about why this glass shelf is a tree. I don't need, you know, with a glass of water. I don't need to. I mean, that's a real thing, by the way. I don't need to read that. You know, I don't need to do that. I could be doing something else, man. I could go fishing, for Christ's sake. You know, I could, you know, there's a stream right down the street. I mean, I could be doing that Why am I reading this thing?
Oh, then there's also the absurdity, right? Like, remember the banana thing that happened in
Let's
Art
not talk
Basel
about the
last
banana. That's a joke. That's a knock joke. That's the problem with that kind of art. That kind of art is, and someone was so angry with me when I said that. Yeah,
It is a joke. Like,
well, I
that
compared Duchamp to being essentially philosophical knock jokes.
right, like,
And they were really upset because I guess they'd gone to school and they'd studied him and they
Wow.
read a bunch about him. And well, at the end of the day, it is a knock joke. It's like, okay, there it is. There's a urinal. Ta-da! There's not much more there. Once you know that it's a urinal, that's it.
yeah,
It's done.
It functions as a commentary and it functions as a joke. But don't you think that maybe that like say like that entire 1990s juxtaposed magazine, art alternatives magazine kind of like movement was a reaction to the
You're talking about like Robert Williams kind of stuff.
Williams, the lowbrow art kind
Coop.
of movement.
Coop is part of that too, right? Coop kind of a younger generation.
Yeah,
Coop.
like Anthony Osgang, like all. Do you ever feel like that? Like this movement toward an illustrative, art movement, illustration as art kind of thing. It was a reaction to the contemporary art antics of contemporary artists.
Well, I mean, it was. You were there, you remember. So I mean, it was, but it's also something where the buyers were new, and they weren't interested in having to go to art school or take an art appreciation class to just look at something and like it.
Right.
I always think this is the difference between East Coast and West Coast, but I'm probably totally wrong. But I always think that juxtaposed stuff was definitely West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
It was, but the problem with the art world at large is that it likes to think, that there's just these fiefdoms, these little pockets of stuff going on, and one likes to pretend the other things don't exist. There's people in New York City that don't want to know that somebody is selling a cowboy painting in Scottsdale, Arizona for $80,000. Like they're upset by that. Like that, they're like, well, that's why, but you know what? That's fine. That is what it is. You can't, I mean, people should like what they want to like. And it's like music, right? I mean, just because you don't like a kind of music doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Somebody's still listening to it. You know what I mean? Sure. So there's an audience for it. Well, why would you, why make it seem like, yours is better? It might not be. That's where taste comes into play.
Right.
And there's also like
taste, right?
Every so often you start. I mean, in history, and I guess maybe even currently, but there's so many pockets of art from different places in America, just America. You know what I mean? Like you're mentioning earlier about art in Spain, France, Italy, and they're all kind of different. Mm-hmm. But there's tons of that in America too. If you look at, sometimes I look at art auctions and I look at the results, and it's art from like, let's say the 40s or 50s or even 60s, and they have like names of this is a painter from the so-and-so Valley School, and I'm like, where was that? And then you find out it was in Ohio or something. I know there was like this, a group of people that gave themselves this kind of great name.
Oh yeah, there's always going to be a lot of that.
And then I look at it. I mean, I don't know. I was like, I never heard of that, but it was enough where they're able to use that in auctions. You know what I mean?
Well, hopefully,
and then it's
someday.
different schools. But it's different schools
Right.
of art in different parts of the country that I'm like, there was art, like people cared about these painters from this area. Something Valley, some I forget the name, and it's like something Valley, and it's like they were doing nature paintings in their area, right? And lo and behold, people care.
Hopefully that'll be us, Luke.
I think it already is.
30 years now, they'll say, oh well, there was this thing that happened in Los Angeles.
That's already happening. That's going to happen.
And the second wave of artists, that would be you and me. We are the second wave. The first wave is the Robert Williams, Mark Ryden. That's the first wave.
Right.
So the second wave is us, pretty much.
I always
I'm-
consider
You, me, Greg Simpkins.
I'm sold. You guys are. It's already a thing, in my opinion.
Well, you're at ground zero for this, so you know, right?
I'm
Eric?
I'm already sold. I drank that Kool-Aid a long time ago. I already believe. No, it's a thing. You guys are part of history. There's no bullshit about that.
So it's our job, Luke, to chronicle this so that people and Eric is doing it right now with these podcasts.
It's chronicled. It's chronicled
and
anway,
books.
man. It's
so-
chronicled. It's in books. It's
so it knows
it's
that
it's
we
digitally
exist.
archived. It's digitally archived all over the place.
Yeah. Because they want to
Yeah.
know that, like,
No question.
what happened, right? I mean, I'll be honest. When Mark Ryden first showed up and he started selling in galleries, what that did for a lot of us that were, because I come from an illustration background, a lot of us were like, well, wait a minute, if he could do it, why can't I do it?
Right.
Why can't I have my stuff in a gallery? Why am I just waiting around for someone to call me to do a book cover or something? Maybe I could do this too. So then I grabbed up my stuff and I flew out to LA and to Seattle, and I was like, hey Gary Pressman, hey Billy Shire, hey Kirsten Anderson, hey Mary Karnowski, maybe hey Andrew Hosner, yeah. I was like, hey, can you maybe sell my stuff? Maybe you could do something, right? Maybe there's something, So and then these people gave me a chance, and I'm still here. Yeah. And that's very nice of them to all of them. Every single one of those people gave me a chance. Am I leaving somebody out? I am leaving somebody out. I'm leaving out Jensen at Gallery 1988. And again, another nice guy. If it weren't for him, this. Right. I mean, everyone. These guys gave all of us a chance, and that's kind of cool. And also, what's kind of nice is that on that end of things, those guys, all those gallery directors, they were more or less discovering us. If without a think space, nobody knows who Orchid Kawasaki is. Without right, because I think they saw. Did they see her first, or was it?
She that was one of the more bigger galleries that showed her work.
Yeah.
I remember, like, because she and I followed a somewhat similar path. Like, we both did freaking black market shows, and then
that's right.
Yeah, as our very first shows, and we both did Gallery 1988 shows. In the very beginning, we did Nucleus Gallery shows in Alhambra.
Alhambra, yeah.
And then
that's Ben Zhu. Is it Ben Zhu's place?
Zhu's place, yeah. And then she's kind of goes between, like, she does this triangle between, like, which she does some things along that with Giant Robot, Think Space, and KP projects. And like my triangle, my LA triangle is like Giant Robot, Corey Halford, and GoPro Gallery. So
I guess my triangle is like,
I'm part of the triangle.
It's KP projects, Giant Robot, and then some, and every now and again. I guess Copro comes in and they'll ask me for something and I'll give them something.
Every once in a while, like,
it's got a little triangle.
Will contact me, and of course I'll agree because it's great. I mean, Gary.
Oh yeah,
Gary. Gary Pressman.
Gary Pressman's a good guy. We like Gary Pressman. Yeah, he's done good.
Did you work with Copro when it was in a different location? I don't even know where it was. It was near the 405 freeway, right?
Yeah, it was
on Venice Boulevard.
Yeah, it used to be in what part of town is that?
It's like Mar Vista or something, or Palms, or Mar Vista.
Location. It was.
Was it on Venice Boulevard maybe, or was it on Washington Boulevard? But it was right by the 405.
Boulevard. It was Washington.
Right by the 405 freeway.
Yeah, they had a Washington Boulevard space, and
it was right next to the freeway.
Cloverfield Boulevard before they moved to the train Bergamot Station.
Yeah, I went there when it was at that location, the one near the freeway. Yeah.
Wow. But you remember some of the other galleries that used to be around that aren't around anymore, right?
There were a lot.
Yeah.
There were a lot, right?
There were a lot.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember a place called Mendenhall Sobieski?
Oh yeah, I remember.
I don't know if I went there though, but I remember seeing the advertisements. I used to always look at the art ads in the LA Weekly and the newspapers.
Yeah.
I would love looking at that stuff.
Wasn't that in Pasadena? No.
Mendenhall? I'm not sure. Yeah, but I remember it.
Earl McGrath Gallery. Does that sound
Earl
familiar?
McGrath.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, dude, that name. Yeah.
Then they closed.
They
That's when they
closed.
closed.
Yeah,
Not
I
that
think
long ago.
You know if Copland Del Rio is still open, that gallery?
I don't think that's open. I think that's gone. I think that's closed.
Wow.
I think
Much has
so.
changed, right?
That one was Culver City, I think, somewhere.
Yeah,
but
Culver City. The
Yeah.
Bo Bass had a place in Culver City at that
Oh,
point.
yeah.
The
Project
Bass
Gallery.
Projects, and then Kinsey LaForge. You know that gallery, Kinsey LaForge.
I don't know. Was that Dave Kinsey related?
Dave
'Cause
Kinsey.
he had.
Yeah, that was.
Oh, he had a
over-
space. I've
Yeah.
been there. Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think what's over there. I think it's
slow around. I know that.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what's his name's Obey's got wife, Ferry. You know, Obey.
Oh, Shepherd Ferry.
Shepherd Ferry.
Yeah. So. Yeah, some
Man,
people
boy.
can do galleries and some people can't. I remember like a lot of at the time, a lot of artists had this, like it was that recession time. A lot of artists had this like, fuck 50%. I'm just gonna fucking have my own gallery. And
Good luck with that. Not easy.
attitude.
Operating a space is not easy. I don't know why people think that. You still got to pay the rent, right?
Yep.
And,
we still pay it even now.
Yeah, unless for whatever reason, like if all of us decided we would just start an artist co-op, like if Greg Simpkins, you, myself, Lola, Tara McPherson,
Wow.
Esau Andrews, Dan Quintana, if we just like banded together 15 of us and just started like an artist co-op and just sold the stuff ourselves, and then each one of us has a show every, if there's 15 people, so you have a show once every year and a quarter, right? Yep. So the only thing you'd have to do is you'd have to fly out and cover the space once in a while, or if you lived in the area, you'd have to just watch it, maybe once a week. You'd have to.
Oh, can I get a job there?
And
I want a job there.
then whatever the rent is, right? And then we'd collect it and then we'd figure it out. That was an idea that a lot of artists had, but it takes a lot because everybody has to pull their weight.
Yeah.
Right. So it's very hard to do that.
Oh, somebody's not going to pull their weight, and everyone's going to get mad at them and get voted off the island. It's like
Pretty
a reality
much,
show.
That's how,
you know what?
That's how
it's a reality show.
Are.
Reality show in the making, right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Artist co-ops are like that, right? So unless you find a space where the rent isn't so high, that's the trick, right? If you could find a low rent space,
right?
And then it isn't so bad. But rents in LA must be crazy right now. Yeah. I can't even imagine what people are paying over there.
Oh, it's too much.
Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah. It's insane. It's just like Manhattan somewhere or Williamsburg or something. It's just expensive. Prohibitive.
Well, that's why you live outside of it. I mean, like even Gary Pressman, he lives in Van Nuys. He doesn't live in the middle of LA.
No.
Oh, and surprisingly, LA does still have pockets of areas that could be really nice, but they're not as expensive as you would think, but they're still expensive.
Yeah.
Right. Considering.
But there are there are areas.
Yeah.
So much changes, man. I mean, what was it ever cheap? When you first showed up, like what was it like?
Oh, I showed up. I'm from here. I'm actually from LA, so I mean, you could buy a house for $150,000 in
what year was that?
90 beginning 94, 95, 96 around there. Yeah, 150. You can get one in a nicer, decent area, I guess.
No kidding. Wow.
Silver Lake. I mean, Silver Lake before Silver Lake became what it is. Yeah, $150,000. You can get a house in Silver Lake. Sure, and a nice one too.
Right, but that was also at a time.
Like 94, maybe around there.
Like it was like
95.
Like Echo Park, Los Feliz, all those areas were not really like. They're definitely not.
No, I know. Yeah, well, like Los Feliz was the beginning of it, right?
Right.
Because that was like, remember like that brand? I don't know. I mean, that was like the Beastie Boys kind of neighborhood, where it was like Los Feliz.
Oh, really?
So that, I mean, that was when they moved here, and that was sort of like the area they were kind of hanging out at. So it got kind of popular little by little, like underground popular, and then did Silver Lake, then it goes east, then it went north. Like it went east, whatever it is, like Echo Park, Silver Lake, Echo Park. Then it goes to, Eagle Rock, right? So it's
But when
Highland
was the
Park,
big
I
when
think.
was the big real estate change? When did things just get out of control?
Man, I think soon after that.
Really?
2000, I don't know, around 2000 maybe it went
So
insane.
that's
started.
happened over here. I mean, I bought this house for $159,000,
Wow.
right? And then 9/11 happened, like maybe 2 years later, and now houses here are a lot more than that because people were just trying to leave the city. They were so afraid what was going on down there, right? Like even now, gas prices are right where they were at 9/11. Right now, the price of gasoline in my area right now is just if you go across the river, it's just under $2 a gallon.
Wow.
Right?
Oh, we're at 3 still around there.
I'm saying 260, 250.
260, yeah, around there. Yeah.
But if you move forward by like 4 years, right, to 2003, 2004, gas was almost $5 a gallon, man. It was like 4 something.
Wow.
And in LA anyway, gas was expensive in Los Angeles in around 2004, 2005. It was jacked up, man.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I remember that. Yeah, it was up to like a 4 something a gallon.
Yeah. I was driving a '79 Pontiac, and it was like a car with like
Gas
this
eater.
gigantic gas tank, man. It was like $100 to fill that tank, man. I was like, what the? That's the way it was, man. Because it was it was crazy.
Can you what was so as an artist or doing art or illustration even what was that like in during that 9/11 time in New York? Because you were there, I presume, right, in some part of it.
I had already moved up here already because I was working at an art studio.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're talking about like the what people paid you to do a job,
Was it like just the environment of it in New York? Like, what was it like? Like, were you doing art shows? Were you doing anything like that? And at that time,
I was working at an art studio pretty much. That's what I was doing, and they paid me pretty well to work there. And I would do illustration jobs like here and there, maybe a book cover here or a magazine there, just something. Nothing. It was pretty inconsistent. I know they'd shut down Manhattan at that point for months after that happened. Because it's stretched because that dust was everywhere, man.
Oh.
So I didn't go down to Manhattan for a couple of years. I didn't go back to New York until 2003 was when I went back.
Wow.
Up till then, man, I stayed away from Manhattan. I just stayed up here because I don't know what was going on. Because right after that, I don't know if you remember, shortly after that happened, there was a scare where people getting envelopes that they thought had anthrax in it.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
That was going on like right after that. And so people were just like freaking the fuck out. So no one would go. We weren't going down there. People were staying up here. And I was selling things from here. And then I thought, oh, you know what? I'm getting tired of this studio job. And then I went out to Los Angeles. So it just kind of worked out. My timing was just right. I got out there just, at my first show in, not even in LA, it was in Seattle at Rock LaRue Gallery.
Oh, wow.
And then from there, Gary Pressman saw the show online and was like, I want that guy. So then he contacted me and said, hey, what do you think about doing something over here? And I was like, yeah, all right. and at the same time, I heard from Billy Shire or whoever was working there. And they were like, hey, do you want to submit something to this kitchen sink thing? And I'm like, why not? Why not? So I had stuff over there and I had stuff over at Gary Pressman's place.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, while that was going on, I was part of this group of artists. We called ourselves the Art Dorks. Does that sound familiar? Art Dorks?
I don't know it. I don't know it.
We had a collective, and it was made up of, it was me, it was Sean Barber, Dave Chung, Chris Reiniak. Do these names sound familiar?
Wow. Sure.
Yeah. And there were a few of us. But the thing about our collective was that we were responsible for getting a group show in the location where we lived. So I curated a group show in Brooklyn for the group. Sean Barber and Reiniak spoke with Andrew Hosner, and he got us a show over there at his place, right? And we had a show in Sacramento because of another artist. We had a show in Sacramento at a gallery called the Toy Room, and then we ended up at a space in San Francisco that was run by a guy named Justin Giarla. He ran that space. So
he has a mixed
things
he has
were
a
okay
mixed
back then
reputation.
because there was everybody was still getting paid and everything was great, and things were still good. So it was fun. We were all getting just shows and spaces, right? And that was kind of fun, doing that. And that was a great group to be with. And then of course we eventually all went our separate ways. But that was a good time,
Didn't you guys weren't most of you guys all associated with that Circus Posturist group too?
That was me and Chris Reiniak, and a guy who calls himself Dr. A.
Oh yeah, Doc A.
Oh, from England?
Yeah.
He was from England. He was there.
Yeah, sure.
And there were two other artists. There was a girl that does little figures with big eyes. And I think she's with she's with Chris Reiniak now, right? I think that she was partnered with him.
Yeah, I'm really bad with names right now. I'm blanking.
Amanda Spade. Does that sound right?
Amanda Spade. And
it was her.
And Circus Posturist is basically kind of run by
Brant Peters and Kathy Olivas.
Yeah.
Who I'm still really good friends with, and
cool.
They're really cool. They were like the outsiders, right? So they would still go to LA and do things, but they kind of did their own thing, and I was always very impressed with that. They have their own industry going, and that's kind of nice. It's nice to know that people have, like, they don't have to be beholden to a space to do this thing of ours, right?
Right.
Now, do you remember there were another two artists that also did figures, and they were living in the hills in Los Angeles, and they had a show at the Museum of Natural History in LA by the Tar Pits.
Oh, Amanda Vassell and
Michelle. I don't know her last name.
Valgulero or something like that.
Yeah, with a V, and it's very Italian sounding. Yeah. Really cool people. They for like a minute they were doing stuff on there. I don't know what they're doing now. I think I still get the emails.
They're still doing stuff.
Yeah, they're still doing stuff.
It doesn't end.
And I think they moved out of Southern California though.
Oh, I think not too far out, right?
They move?
They moved, but I think they just moved a little further out, but not way out.
Right. I'm not sure.
Through them I met a person named that was called Buona Spoons.
I've known him for a long time.
And then I met a guy who he lives in Portland now. What the hell's his name?
Buona lives there. Scrappers?
No. He has, like, his whole face is full of hair. And
he's a metal dude. What's his name?
Metal guy, yeah.
Metal dude who makes he does paintings and no, he's older. Skinner. He's kind of grayish now. He looks like one of your characters that you draw, actually, but he doesn't wear a top hat and stuff like that. But he's kind of got a lot of facial hair. You know his name. I forgot myself. He always wears he wears a denim vest often.
I was just thinking of Bigfoot, but it's not.
Oh no, he's older, a little older than that, but he's got he wears a denim vest. He's got glasses.
Because I'm kind of.
I know.
And I talk.
I am too. I forgot his name.
For whatever reason, his name escapes me right now, and it's not a slight. I mean, really.
He's a good guy.
He's a good guy.
He goes to decon. He's at decon all the time, and he's got like a lot of facial hair.
I think it's kind of cool that we all, I said, we all kind of know.
He's a good guy.
So I rattle off these names, and you guys go, "Oh yeah, I remember that guy, or this guy, or that person," and that's kind of cool. See how cool our community is.
Yeah, no, it's
right.
It's a tight community, and it's an interesting one for sure. And there's dramas here and there, but no.
That's the best part, man.
that is the best part. Like, this person hates this person, and that person hates that person,
and this gallerist screwed all these people, and
like the
that shooting gallery story is the craziest one. I think that one I was so surprised. I was surprised, not surprised. I just didn't think it kept going on.
Right. You mean
I thought after I left that they had they maybe they cleaned up their act, but then it turns out I saw this crazy post by
Ken.
Ken posted it, and I was like, oh my god, and
Of
I
them,
was like,
when they were moving to like Seattle or something like that.
Portland. He's in Portland.
He's in Portland now. Well, Ken Harmon had posted this thing, and I could not stop. I was like reading it, like, oh my god, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think things happen, and it's I find that to be pretty entertaining at times.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that we're all still here and we're all still working. We're all still doing our stuff.
No, I'm I still have it in the back of my head, but like when I first started doing this, I was just constantly like thinking to myself, the floors is going to drop out from underneath me. And it's gonna be over. So it's I'm happy that like I'm still working, still able to pay my bills and everything. So one of the things that one of the many reasons why I wanted you on this show is also because of the fact that you have a very interesting Facebook page or social media presence where
why is that
you would like present like ideas concerning the business of art and basically ask questions or ask for thoughts concerning some things, and you always seem to you always seem maybe it's just like looking at like what's going on out there and asking questions. I think like we had a discussion a long time ago about the Baby Yoda art thing, where you and I actually got on the phone and we talked about it for a while, where like some artists were just kind of, it was back when Baby Yoda was the hottest visual thing and one of the hottest art things that people could do, and it's kind of brought up a bigger question concerning appropriating IP, other people's IPs and stuff like that. To just kind of, I mean, I'm having a hard time like recollecting anything specific right now, but
well, it's a weird question. I always think that you go to a convention, right, Comic-Con or something, and then there's always going to be an artist that's doing fan art.
Many artists.
And that's fine. I guess they're one-offs. It's not a big deal. But when you start making prints, that's when I kind of blink and go, "Ooh, I don't know, is that a good idea?" Because some of these companies, if they find out, they get a little upset that you're making money off of their stuff, And
it depends who.
But there's a ceiling, right? Like they don't mind if it's a little bit of money. They don't really care so much. But the minute you cross a certain threshold, then they were like, listen, it's like those guys that were trying to make the Star Trek movie on their own, and when they crowdfunded it, and as soon as it went over $1 million, suddenly, I don't know, was that Paramount? Who owns that Star Trek?
I think Paramount. Does it Paramount? It seems like
I have no idea.
Well, they were like, listen, guys. It's cool and all you making a fan movie or whatever, but guess what? You can't, not when those kind of dollars show up, it's like it's a game changer. Now it's like, okay, it's great you're spreading the thing, but don't do that because we own it. That's ours.
Right.
So, the leash has gotten too short. So this is something.
Yeah,
so I always kind of wonder about that. Yeah.
It's always on the edge. Because we're in LA, Los Angeles. I mean. This is the worst place to do it, but people still do it with impunity everywhere here. But yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things. It's there's just companies that you just have to look out for. Maybe don't do certain things. Right. But then it seems like sometimes it's okay. Like I hear stories. One artist did a bunch of Star Wars stuff, tons of it, and he was contacted by the company. Was it Disney? Thinking, oh, I'm in trouble. And instead, they were very open-armed and said, hey, we'd like to buy this from you. Like, take money. Here's money. We want this to be our design now.
How cool is that?
Yeah. Right. So instead of getting sued for it, they actually, worked with that artist to do more stuff or worked with and gave them a lot of money. So that's an example. It's like, it can work that way or it can go the other way. But
Well, I got a
you
cease
just don't
and
know.
desist letter from.
Sure, I've had some.
From
Yeah.
Schultz, the state of Charles Schultz.
Sure.
For because I curated a show at Copro, and Tim O'Brien did a painting of Charlie Brown as if Charlie Brown was a real person, but still with those proportions, and it was creepy as hell. And I guess Charles Schultz's family was like, "Listen, you can't be doing that." But then
I recall that, I think.
But then he was like, "Well, no, this is a one-off. I'm not making prints or anything. It still falls under the the parody thing, so it's okay, And you could do that, and it would be fine. Just don't make prints of it. Don't do like a bunch of them. You know what I mean?
And just from my experience, even if you say, like that artist would say that,
yeah,
they can still steamroll you and just bleed you for money if they want to, even if they're wrong. Even if you're right and they're wrong, they can still bleed you for money if they decide to push it.
The internet existed, so you have the whole public opinion thing going on. So
it does now, but
bad. And that's why they didn't pursue any more. That's my guess. I mean, why didn't they continue to come after us? We were just kind of like, nah, dude, that's not,
They'd probably decided, hey, it's not worth it.
It's not worth
it on ours. But if they want to do, they could be dicks and just bleed you for money, And
then I am driving over to the guy's house, and they're like, "Wait, who's that guy?" I show up with a pipe wrench. Listen. This is how we do things in Chinatown. Can you imagine? Oh my God. Here's your bean sprouts, you sons of bitches.
Well,
oh my God.
I was wondering, do you spend a lot of time kind of paying attention to what's going on out there, or do you spend
in Chinatown?
Media, or on Instagram or on Facebook, kind of keeping it, you're an ear to the rail to a certain degree of what's bubbling up around you?
Yes and no. I mean, there's still things happening with Asian people being assaulted in New York City. Unfortunately,
it's in New York more than here, right?
And
it seems like a New York thing.
It's just embarrassing. It's like, wait, are you that dumb? That's the mark of poor education. Okay,
they are, but yeah,
I mean, it's like
they are.
So let me get this straight. So you're blaming this Asian guy for this disease that you're in the most dangerous place in the United States to catch this thing, and you're touching him. Right. Are you out of your mind?
Right.
So what why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense. That's like, I hate you with you leper. I'm gonna hug you now. I mean, that's what that's like. It's like why would you do that? I'm gonna suck on your toes. That's what's happening. It's happening now.
But I think some of the things you're talking about, Luke, on his posts, I seen it too, and I equate it to him being you being a teacher. Also, I kind of I know that's why I equate it when I read that is like you're saying stuff, but you're presenting a point. Maybe halfway, you have your opinion, but then you're also presenting it for public opinion. But I see that as a method that a lot of teachers use. You don't want to just stand on your podium and say, this is it, but you're also presenting it too as a jumping off point where there's discussion, which that's what teachers do often is
a lot of
discussion.
Artists jump on your posts with comments. So it's always kind of interesting to just sit there and thumb through the posts when you kind of jump on with something to say. And I would, if you're an artist, I would recommend trying to seeing whether or not Travis will follow you or will add you, because there's do you share the same posts on Twitter too, or are you
on Twitter? They're just quick blasts of there's a show I'm doing right now, or maybe somebody's artwork that I'm trying to help them sell it. I'll do a post for them on Twitter, because I think we have to help each other out. I think that's important. I'm trying to start a thing called Artist of the Month on Twitter.
No, I saw that just last night. You posted on the 20th, and I was going to I wasn't sure whether or not it was a Am I supposed to respond to this by adding a list of 4 other artists? Because I could.
Well, that was my hope, but you did not, and that's okay.
No,
You still can. You can go on there tonight if you want and just be like,
I will. I will. I wasn't sure. I wasn't quite sure whether or not it was like, because like have you seen the Instagram version where it's like they have like they have like new artist, like new kind of amateur artists will post a link of like 10 artists, and then those artists who are on the link are supposed to add 10 artists to it, and like it.
I haven't seen that one, but I've seen so many other ones similar.
Right.
Well, I'm just thinking that you, me, Greg, and Tara and Lola have a little more of a following than somebody who's brand new. So if we jump on and we point one person out and say this person is a somebody, and everybody, all of our people go and take a look, and say, is this person a somebody? Well, according to Luke Chu and Greg Simpkins and Travis Louie and Lola and Tara McPherson, it is.
Right.
Or Camilla D'Erico, whatever. We
Camilla responded, but she didn't quite get the memo.
She didn't understand. It's fine. It's fine. I'll do it better. I'll do it better this month. Again, and on the 15th, I'm going to do it again.
It is May the 6th. Good month to start.
Yeah.
So, and I will tag me in it, and I will do that. I will jump on.
Because
I
feel like maybe every once in a while, maybe some of these other guys can use a little push.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it helps. It's a good idea. Everybody could use a little something, especially nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough out there. We don't all have like, it's nice to have a guy like Eric Nakamura around to be like a champion. Somebody that's like a that could tell people, you got to look at this. This is something.
Right.
You gotta look at this something. I think of the pre-Raphaelite painters in England. It's I want to say it's again it's funny. It's around 1848, around the same time that gold was discovered in Sutter's Mill. It's a very, very pivotal year for me in my thinking. But there were these young men in England, and there were 5 of them, I believe. They called themselves the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, right? Was it 5 or was it 4? Well, anyway, it's the painters were. So it's like Dante Gabriel Rossetti, right? It was Thomas Woolner. I guess he was a sculptor, and then there was I'm drawing a blank. I'm so tired now mentally. Well, anyway, they had a guy.
We could do that.
They had a guy that was their that was like their champion, and he was an art critic, and he actually helped them out by writing writing articles about them. And
you mean like Carlo McCormick?
Carlo McCormick, is he a champion?
I don't know.
I don't. Is he? I don't know. He never helped me out. I'm just saying.
He didn't. Oh, okay.
He's cool. I appreciate what he's done. He's a writer. I think
he's an art critic in New York, right?
Yeah.
Basically,
but
and writes. I think he's written a lot of forwards for books, like many, like 50 maybe. But he was a big Ugly Doll fan of all things, so that's how
No kidding. How cool is that? That is pretty cool.
He's like an art critic, but he would like when we had our New York space, anything with Ugly Dolls, he would be there.
Wow.
And then sometimes, it was interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that's how we got our some Carla McCormick sentences of support was from Ugly Dolls.
Well, I mean, it's you need somebody. You need somebody that is going to be like your champion. I think all artists need that. They need some champion, somebody that can tell people, hey, this stuff is important. This stuff has value. Because without it, it's very hard. It's just we're pretty much relying on ourselves and the galleries to do it for us. And we need some real critical analysis that can give us a leg up. I think. No? Do you see that?
Absolutely.
I think it would help for sure.
Every artist needs something like that. You can't just do it on your own.
Right.
You need someone out there who has clout to help, because the America is so, a majority of Americans just have zero education, formal education in visual communication. And
right.
so they
That's
don't
true.
they don't even really trust their own eyes
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to what is good, what was good, what speaks to them, you know, and whatnot.
Right.
I think that's even worse in other countries, like compared. You know, it could be even worse.
Right.
It's all coming back now. The person I was thinking of is a guy. His name is John Ruskin, and he was an art critic in England in the Victorian times. And those guys that were in the Brotherhood, it was John Everett Malaise. Does that sound familiar?
It's the name is
William Holman Hunt. No, Edward Burne-Jones,
but I can't think
Ford
of
Maddox Brown, William Morris. All those guys were part of the original group. It was their time, and for like a minute, they were important, but they had somebody helping them out, right, to get them there. And then that's the trick. The other trick is you have to have some kind of I guess some kind of masterpiece that people remember you for, something that you've done, right?
Luke with the broken record monkey guy.
Yeah.
You need something that, I mean, you know, that, I mean, I think of my friends, my artist friends, and I think a lot of them haven't made their masterpiece yet. Right. Like
that's not. I don't know if that's a. Oh, sorry, Luke. That's not your masterpiece, but that's a piece that people remember you for.
People remember you by it, but you haven't made a lot of us haven't made the thing that people go, oh, that's the. Like with Picasso, it's, you know, there's like 4 or 5 paintings that people remember, right? Yeah. And they talk about them. But the rest of his stuff, you know, who cares? But it's the same 5 paintings. Going backwards and forwards in art history books, they always remember those 4 or 5 paintings.
I got you. A lot of the artists are like that, right? Like Van Gogh.
So
it's just the ones you know.
There's got to be something for us. There's got to be something that we do that people remember. You know, this one painting that, oh yeah, this is what, you know. Most of us, it's I think it's like a style that they remember.
Right.
They remember that there's a certain look that we have, and that's what people remember. But, you know, like for you, it obviously there is a look. You know, for me, there's a look also.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure.
But I don't know if there's a single masterpiece Travis Louie work that people will remember. I don't think there is one right now.
They're all masterpieces.
You're too kind, Luke. Too kind. No, but seriously, I think I haven't made it yet. So I will make it. I'm gonna make this thing. I have to. That's one of my goals. But I won't know until I'm dead, I guess, whether or not I did it.
Right? I don't know.
I don't know.
I think you'll like when everyone revolves around a particular piece, you know, then that piece becomes that, whether you know, I mean, you don't know it when you're creating it, but
right.
You'll know it when people, like, you know, Eric is right. The Broken Record soundtrack painting I did is probably one of my most popular paintings. It's
people know it without knowing your name too, right? They know the artwork. Yeah,
it is something that and I'm for a long time I resented it, you know, but like,
oh really?
Because I resented it because I created like the second year I was painting, you know, like that's how many years has it been since then, and like I still haven't like done anything that has the same kind of impact that painting had. Like,
was that the one that was on MySpace? Like everybody's profile on, was it MySpace?
It was on.
It was insane. It was insane. Like, I bet you there was probably like how many thousands of people use that as their icon.
Right. Yeah.
I saw it every day. Like at the time, I think I saw it every day. I'm like, I don't know who this is, and they're using it. Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That painting was in your show.
Oh, he sold it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
$400.
Was it that little? 500, I thought.
Yeah.
No?
500, yeah, because
500.
I'd never
give it that extra 100. 20%.
I never sold a painting that size for that much money at that time.
That's a great piece. But
so,
no, there's more. There's more in you, man. That's.
I hope. I hope. You know,
there's more in you.
You never know.
I'm convinced. No. There's other ones. That one just had a weird social media.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It became a meme.
I don't think that's a masterpiece. I think it's the meme thing, or the, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe.
No, the masterpiece is still coming.
I hope
or
so.
pieces. Yeah, go for it.
But
Well, we hope. I
everything
mean, we have to reach.
is
That's
a
what
mask.
we have to reach. That's what it comes down to, right? We have to reach.
Yeah.
I hope it gets somewhere. You know.
Right.
But is that masterpiece kind of also? It's kind of mixed with social media. I mean, is that going to be part of it?
maybe
It's a thing that everyone shares so
Maybe.
much that it's like that. This is Travis Louie. This is Luke Chu.
maybe
For now, anyway. You know.
Yeah,
right.
So it's technology, a little bit of technology love, and you know,
It's gotta
striking
be
a chord.
press, It's got to have a certain social relevancy to it, or a social an aesthetic that really kind of speaks to the moment.
You know,
Right.
which goes back to our beginning conversation about the zeitgeist,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what is it that makes something have value? What is it that makes something be recognizable? You know, I think of Cause, right? There's a certain shape.
Cause.
You came up.
Cause came up again.
There's a certain shape of something that you see it and you know it's his. Doesn't mean it's amazing or great or this or that. It just means that it's recognizable, you know.
Right.
The reason why I bring him up because he too had a float in the Macy's parade.
Yep. I was gonna say that, and I didn't want to bring it up.
So, which makes
He
it
had a
hilarious because
As did Murakami.
you know. But are we gonna remember who these people are? Like, you know, maybe in my lifetime we will, but 100 years from now, I don't know. Are they gonna disappear like the same way that you know, Eddie Cantor disappeared? Now, here's the thing about Eddie Cantor. Eddie Cantor, he made movies too. He was in motion pictures, but the movies that he was in, for whatever reason, the film stock was, you know, it deteriorated and it got destroyed before they were able to save it. So a lot of those
Wow.
movies are gone,
Right.
right? Whereas people at Hal Roach Studios, right? So now we're talking like Laurel and Hardy.
That's way
That
back.
stuff
Yeah,
is
yeah.
still around.
Right.
That somebody made masters and saved them, or and you know, cleaned them up or whatever, but they were in better storage.
Right.
So something about things lasting helps too, because we know who Laurel and Hardy are,
Mhm.
and they were around the same time. In fact, they were just as popular as Eddie Cantor, but yet we still know who they are.
Yeah.
Right? They even just made a movie, right? Didn't they
Right.
just make a movie about them, a biography?
Oh, I don't know. Wow, they did. I had no idea.
It was and it's so funny because those guys were so good. The makeup was amazing. And he did, you know, it was John C. Riley
Mm.
played
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
played Oliver
Wow.
Hardy, and the makeup was really good. And what a great performance,
Yeah.
right?
John C. Riley's awesome. He's just
And yet there's no mention of it during the Oscars. Like they didn't. It got lost in the shuffle. But I thought, man, that's a pretty good makeup, right? And a pretty good performance. I think that year was I want to say it was Gary Oldman playing the Prime Minister of England during World War II, right?
Oh, the speed. What was that movie called? Was that didn't come out at the same time, did it? No, that came out years ago, right?
Which one?
Gary Oldman.
No, Gary Oldman he got an Oscar. It was last year. He got the Oscar for best actor for playing
Churchill.
Huh? Churchill. Yeah, wasn't that a year ago? That was like it had to be at least a year ago.
Okay.
This year was what won this year for best actor?
I don't
because this year was like Parasite was one of the big movies.
It was the big winner, right?
You know, have you seen that, by the way? Have you seen Parasite?
Yeah,
I have.
Yeah, have
What
you?
do you think? Did you like it?
I liked it.
I liked it.
Best movie,
really
like
impressed, man. I was
best
so
movie
impressed with
though.
that
I don't
movie.
know, but it was good.
I mean, I was
enjoyed it.
impressed. There's a couple of shots in that I was like, wow, this is something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
there's cool stuff in it.
It is definitely. I mean, I enjoyed it, and it was one of those movies that I walked in thinking like, oh, it's going to be one of those really moody kind of like heavy Korean dramas, and then and I was just pleasantly surprised with how fun it was.
Yeah,
Well, you've seen
Definitely
his
fun.
other films?
I have.
No.
Well,
Sure.
there's something about class struggle in just about every single one of his movies, isn't there? Even the one with the train, because that's the people in the back of the train trying to get to the front, and the front of the train is where all that's But you have to, but all the way in the back, you're like in steerage on the Titanic. It's like you're just, and then so Captain America, has to try to get to the, to meet Ed Harris at the end of the train. I mean, that's right.
I've been meaning to watch that. I haven't watched that one yet.
I keep saying all these. It's Snowpiercer. I've been trying to say Snowpiercer, but I'm like rattling off the.
And that's now going to be that's now going to be a TV show, right? Or a TV series.
They are doing it, but I wouldn't. That's a bit much for me.
Yeah.
I don't think they need to make a TV show out, but they did it already.
Hmm.
But the other one also, there's another film I saw of his where it's called The Host. There's like a giant beast living in the river.
Sure.
I think I tried watching that, and
I liked it.
The effects were so bad that I just couldn't make it through.
Oh no, that one's awesome.
Was it?
I liked it.
Yeah, that one's great.
I saw it when it came out, so the effects
that was hot.
They weren't so bad.
At the time. That was a hot movie.
Yeah, at the time, it was something. That was really.
Yeah.
Do that one with like the big hippo cow thing that like.
Okja.
Yeah.
I remember
Netflix.
Watching the trailer for it, and I was just like, yeah, I can't watch this. This looks.
Wait, coming from New York, what did you think of and time period? What did you think of Gangs of New York? Because that's kind of like your clothing time period of your art. You're from New York.
I liked the movie until the soundtrack had a modern song in it.
Oh,
and
okay.
And then I kind of was
what,
like,
U2? Was it U2?
I was like, dude, what are you doing? I know, Martin, you're cool and all. You're a great filmmaker, but it doesn't mean you have to put. I don't like putting a modern song in a movie that takes place in the 1800s. It doesn't make sense to me. And that was a big turnoff for me. For whatever reason, it just like it took the mood right out of it.
Was U2? I think it was a U2 song. Is that the one you're talking about?
It was a U2 song, but it was like a modern song, like right in the middle of the movie. And I'm like, what is going on? Why would you do that?
I don't even remember that. Like, maybe I wasn't paying attention to the music when I was watching it.
Well, the music is kind of important in Martin Scorsese movies.
Yes,
it kind of is. He's always been a fan, and like if you watch Goodfellas, the soundtrack's really important.
Oh, absolutely. The soundtrack is kind of what made Goodfellas in my eyes. It's so like the music, the songs are so powerful for the moments that they're associated. So that's still in my eyes Scorsese's best movie.
I think so. I think he got robbed that year. I really don't believe that Dances with Wolves was really as great a movie as it won. It should have been Goodfellas. That should have won that year.
It should have won. Goodfellas should have won.
It's like all the Forrest Gump people are just like Forrest Gump, but that year it should have been Pulp Fiction. I couldn't think of a more influential film of the 90s than Pulp Fiction.
Right.
And yet that didn't win. For whatever reason, the people that were voting were really, I guess a lot of them were from the Kennedy era, so they remember that. So they see the movie and they see their past and they have a connection to it, and and Tom Hanks' character is like Zelig, it's like he's just like he lives through all these things. All these things happen.
He's there in history at every little event. Yeah.
So it resonated with them, but just as a person who's interested in the way things connect to people and the time, I think that Pulp Fiction was more timely. It had more of a connection with the public at large, I think.
Yeah,
with
cool.
everyone. It influenced so many filmmakers. You don't have a Guy Ritchie without Quentin Tarantino. Like Guy Ritchie doesn't exist without him.
Oh, there's a lot of things that won't exist. Samuel Jackson just wouldn't have been Samuel Jackson. I mean, he's still him, but that thing just kind of, I don't know. I thought it elevated his.
It sure did. I mean, we wouldn't have
it's elevated.
All these motherfucking snakes.
That's what I'm saying. See,
that
that's
wouldn't have happened without
the badass motherfucker with the wallet. You don't have all this.
That's such a great movie.
Bad motherfucker. You don't have that.
No. That's such a good movie. I was so pleased when I saw it.
Yeah.
And I had seen Reservoir Dogs a year or two earlier, and I was thinking, man, this guy, whoever he is, he's doing something. Something's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So then Pulp Fiction comes out, and that was a really good year. I remember I saw Tim Burton, my favorite Tim Burton movie came out like maybe a few months before it. It was Ed Wood had come out.
That was so cool.
I was like, wow, what a great movie this is. And then like maybe a little while later, Pulp Fiction comes out, and I'm like, oh man, this thing's amazing.
Yeah.
And I was so pleased. I was like, wow, this is like a little renaissance in filmmaking. All of a sudden, all these great things are happening. And then they didn't. It just like sort of quieted down. I don't know. It's like, all right, maybe not. Maybe not. You can't just have one person making good movies. You need to have more than one person making good movies, and movies that resonate and last. And like I said, time decides, right?
Right.
Time decides these things. And we look back in time and you go, that Dances with Wolves, maybe it wasn't that good of a movie. Maybe it was just okay. It was just okay.
Well,
I mean,
even like Guy Ritchie, right? Like, what has he done that was good after Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch? Like, what?
Rock and Rolla. Rock and Roll is a really good movie. That's actually a really good movie. The performances are really good. It's a tight script. It's not so jarring, right? Snatch is hilarious to me. I think that's a funny movie.
It's a very funny movie.
I think it was a trilogy. I think there was these 3 movies, and they, I think Rock and Roller could have used Jason Statham in it, but whatever, he's not in that. But he's in, he's in the first one. He's in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. But it's funny, that one had this kind of garage band kind of quality to it. Like, it was his first movie, and it was just like, okay, he's not all there yet, But by the time you get to Snatch, there's some really good performances in that too.
Snatch was just like interesting. It was just another fun, really like frenetic movie. So I didn't realize you were such a movie buff, Travis. This has been eye opening for me. I mean, I could
really
I can see it, but like I don't think I've ever talking to you about movies.
Oh, I love movies. I always I grew up with all these things. My grandfather. It's because of him, because he loved movies. In fact, I remember getting in trouble because I was so fascinated by the things that my grandfather saw that when I was in kindergarten, it was the 20th anniversary of the McCarthy hearings, and I was drawing what I was doing these drawings based on what I'd seen in front of the television set, because my parents parked me in front of a PBS station, and that's where they were playing all this footage. And as a little kid, all I saw was, hey, those are all the actors that are in my grandfather's movies that he watches. So there's Humphrey Bogart, there's Danny Kaye, there's Lauren Bacall, there's all these people are there. So I'm and I'm a little kid and with crayons, and I'm just drawing these things. And
Wow.
and during art time in public school, I'm drawing this scene, and I don't know, the teacher asked me, hey, what are you drawing? And I said, oh, I'm drawing a hearing. This is a hearing. So the teacher calls my mom up and it's like, hey man, there's something wrong with your kid. I mean, he's drawing a hearing. What is that? Is something going on? And my mom was like, did you just waste my time? My mom was so pissed. She's like, I have to pay the bills. I have a job I go to. I don't have time to come around here and talk to you about. Those are crayons. You see those things? Those are my mom is like mean, saying these things. I was cracking up. I was like, I'm a little kid, and I'm just like, wow, my mom gets mean apparently. When you waste my mom's time, I guess don't waste my mom's time.
Don't waste your mom's time.
I grew up poor, so every penny counted. So all she saw was, hey, these people are annoying me because I have to get to work, and now I got to come in here and talk to this lady about crayon drawings. Because the working class people, what is that? You're complaining.
Yeah.
Wait until my kid stabs somebody, then complain to me. Right now, we're drawing with crayons. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell's the matter with you?
Yeah.
And I got a good laugh out of that. Well, my teacher, oddly enough, my teacher looked like Richard Nixon in drag. So I always remember my mom saying that to me too. And she had, she had, the teacher had a picture of Nixon behind her on the wall, because I guess, he was still president, and it was like I guess she treated it like the post office. Like back in the day, post office used to have the president on the wall, right? I don't know if you remember that, Eric. Back
No.
in the day, that was like a thing. I think
they still do, depending on
Maybe?
like where.
I don't know.
Like if you're going to get your passport, like
have you seen that though? You have seen that, like
I think so.
There's a photograph of like the current president. I remember the first time I ever saw that. There was that I can remember. There was like a picture of Carter in the post office, like on the wall. Anyway, so my mom looked at the teacher and then looked up at the picture and then looked back at the teacher and then looked and I was like, what's going on? And then she said later on, I think the teacher looks like Richard Nixon wearing a dress or something. And I was like,
Oh, wow.
It's so funny, My mom had a great sense of humor, so I always thought that was kind of cool.
Nice.
Dude, man, I think we're at 2:20 now.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
How'd that happen?
We went a little over time, but
I'm sorry about that.
no, it's amazing.
Travis, we would love to. I think
we'll have you again
we would love to have
sooner than later,
because you've got a lot of great things to say. So I would love to.
I don't think I said anything. I think we're just talking, right?
Yeah, no, but
there's
like good kernels of like stuff.
Okay. Just John. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, damn it. Every time this is a little side note. I am doing my best to stop saying, because
really?
It's
well, then just say it different the next time. Just like just remind yourself, wait, I'm going to say, again, I got to say it different.
Yeah.
Stick turn it into a thing that you do, just like like make it your own phrase somehow.
Right.
That's kind of cool.
Own it, right? Just be like, even if you have to be like, you got to own it. You do something to it, right?
I think that's just what do you call it? Is that just a filler of a statement, right?
Yeah.
But some will say things like, I forgot. There was a president who would say, "And let me say this." That was the filler.
Oh my God.
Always say that. Who was that?
God. Yeah, I remember that. Sure.
Who was that though?
Which
I forgot. Was it like Ford, President Ford or something? They would just say, let me say this. And they would say it over.
Kennedy
they would use it a lot. And it was
Kennedy
like,
did that.
Yeah, it was a time splitter. Like they could think a little more while they say that. Anyway.
I believe that was Kennedy.
Is it? I can't remember anymore.
It was Kennedy.
Yeah.
It was,
okay.
yeah.
Don't
worry, I'm not that old. Jesus.
Well, but it was one of those things you notice after a while. You start looking, you're like, oh, they repeat that over and over and over and over and over.
But
it's all good, man.
It is. You have your own language that you say.
I've got my own hang-ups.
You know
what I mean.
Yeah, we gotta. When I come back out there, when the smoke is clear, we should all go to a restaurant.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were gonna say. I thought you said restaurant. I thought you were gonna say wrestling, but you said restaurant. Okay.
Why would I say wrestling, dude?
I have no idea because I thought we were gonna go to. I thought you were gonna say baseball, and it turned into something, and I was like, wrestling? It's restaurant.
No,
okay, restaurant. Let's do that.
That I always liked about Luke is that we always find good places to eat.
Oh, that's Luke.
Yeah, man.
Luke's all about it, and if it's not good, you will hear about it.
Yeah, Luke is, I would say Luke is the foodie among us.
Yeah, yummy food, but if it's not good, you will hear about it. Yeah. It won't be politely quiet. It will be a loud blue.
I think I like
it's
that.
okay.
It'll
That's great.
Just the three of us going
because we ate pizza in Hawaii and the waiter heard about it.
Wow.
I did it nicely though.
Yeah, very nicely, but enough where that waiter had heard a lot about it.
I think I was
nicely.
Like, what's up with this?
What did you say? What
I forgot. It was just it was a decent amount of time and criticism about the pizza, how it was no good.
Yeah.
And pizza in Hawaii. What do you expect? It's Hawaii, and you're eating pizza. We're eating pizza in Hawaii, but it was open.
Everything else was good, but the pizza was bad.
Did it have spam on it?
No.
It was just a bad rendition of pizza.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it
shouldn't have happened.
On the menu.
It's just not.
Do you still have a Two Boots out there?
Pizza?
Yeah, Two Boots Pizza in Los Angeles. Is there
I
still
don't know
one
it.
out there?
I don't know it.
Eric is the pizza.
Two Boots. I don't know it.
So.
Two Boots is actually in New
familiar,
York.
but-
They are a New York establishment. They opened up a one out there.
Oh, there's like a Roberta's. That's a New York thing, right? There's
Well,
little
no,
by
Two
little.
Boots has very clever pizzas that are pretty good.
Oh, really?
I
Okay.
particularly like the Cleopatra Jones.
We'll have to
That's
check
what
it
they
out.
call
Haha, that sounds cool.
Yeah, that's a good pizza. And then
Two
there's
Boots.
the Larry Tate. They're named after TV characters
Right.
and movie characters. So there's a Cleopatra Jones. There's a Larry Tate is Darren Stevens' boss on Bewitched. I don't know if you watched that show.
Wow.
It's still here.
Okay.
Yeah,
I remember that.
You found it?
It's
Wow.
still in Los
It
Angeles.
exists?
It's
Okay.
in Echo Park.
In Echo Park. Okay.
I watched Bewitched. I didn't know. Okay.
Well, if you get a
I
chance,
remember. Okay.
I
check it out.
recommend that pizza place.
Wow. Maybe we're going there. Of one of the few places we're going to eat together in one night.
Yes.
All right.
We'll have
Yeah,
to go
yeah.
on a crawl. We'll do it.
Yeah, crawl. A crawl.
Okay.
It'll be fun. All
Cool, man.
right.
Alrighty.
But Travis, thank you so much for doing the show.
Thank
Thank
man.
you so much.
I'm always around. You can find me. I'm usually here working in my studio.
Nice.
You know.
Well, we'll have to bug you again.
Sure, man.
So
I'll see you guys on the
See you
internet.
guys.
yes.
Alrighty. See ya.
Listen,
Thank
yeah,
you.
see you
Take care,
there. And tag me again. I will add 4 artists.
All right, I will do that.
Okay.
Peace.
Cool, man.
See you guys.
Take care.